I have kidnapped an alien civilization. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 401 Ordinary People. Among the crew of the Navigator, except for Captain Ing Week 1 and Safety Officer Zyrok, who are professionally trained aerospace personnel, Yu Shiluo, Liu Jiangsheng and Shirindeo are ordinary people who have only been trained for more than 2 months. Is this team enough to complete the task of building a base on the surface of Mars? And among them, the oldest Yu Shiluo is already 42 years old. In this era, when people are facing the risk of unemployment at the age of 35, Mosey Technology actually hired a 42-year-old grandfather and sent this grandfather to Mars to perform a mission. Too outrageous. Fang Lanshan came to his senses and asked his second question without hesitation. What profession has the least number of people in the world? The answer is undoubtedly astronauts, especially those astronauts who have been to space. The working environment in space is very different from that on Earth. Eating and drinking water are common things for people living on Earth, but in the weightless environment of space, the diet of astronauts becomes very complicated and particularly wonderful. Astronauts are in a nearly vacuum environment in space and must always wear heavy spacesuits. Once there is a hole in the spacesuit, the astronauts will have their organs ruptured due to excess of internal pressure, such as visceral eversion, eyeball expansion and rupture, and finally become a mixture of torso, internal organs, and blood. It can be said that astronauts are in danger at all times when they are in space. Therefore, the screening and training of astronauts in various countries around the world are extremely strict. According to absolutely unreliable statistics from Self-Media Big V, there is only one real astronaut for every 1 million people on Earth. But why did Professor Liemo choose 3 ordinary Chinese as the team members to build the pyramid? Is it because of the lack of talent? Fang Lanshan, who is familiar with the talent reserve of Mosey Technology Laboratory, rejected this answer without hesitation. Because Professor Liemo has always had a unique hobby of collecting talents. Thousands of graduates from major universities join Mosey Technology every year. Not to mention the mysterious Marxing project. The talents trained have become the backbone of various departments in the laboratory and are known as the Mosey Technology Elite Class. If it's not good enough, you can borrow official aerospace talents. After years of development, China has cultivated a large number of excellent astronauts, some of whom have rich space experience. If Professor Liemo submits an application to the higher authorities, it is estimated that several experienced astronauts will soon quit their original jobs and join the Mosey Technology Laboratory. In the eyes of any rational person, these options are obviously better than sending 3 ordinary people to Mars. Maybe the boss really lost his mind? Thinking of this incredible idea appeared in Fang Lanshan's mind. His eyes widened, trying to find a trace of evidence from Professor Liemo's facial expressions. Liemo didn't know Fang Lanshan's rich inner activities. He took a sip of tea and gave the answer. The reason why I paid a huge price to select Yu Shiluo, Liu Jiangsheng and Shirindeo to participate in this mission. It's because of their identities. Fang Lanshan was completely confused. The sentence Mosey Technology paid a huge price is understandable. After all, in order to allow these 3 talents with the highest degree of junior college to master complete aerospace knowledge in just 2 months, Fang Lanshan personally led a team of professors from top universities and spent a week compiling a set of easy to understand teaching materials. Not to mention that, in order to train them, Mosey Technology specially built a professional training ground and hired top combat instructors from the special forces. Even Krikalev, who had stayed in the International Space Station for 115 days, was specially invited to join the coaching team. It can be said that in order to allow these 3 ordinary people to have the possibility of surviving on Mars, the experts and professors of Mosey Technology have used all imaginable methods. But the reason why Yu Shiluo, Liu Jiangsheng and Shirindeo were able to participate in the mission was because of their identities. What are their identities? Yu Shiluo has a high school degree and an occupation, bricklayer. Liu Jiangsheng has a junior college degree and an occupation, power maintenance worker. Shirindeo has a high school degree and an occupation, unemployed. These three ordinary people have nothing to do with high tech such as aerospace. Fang Lanshan's face showed a strong sense of confusion. Liemo smiled, because they are ordinary people. If humans want to step into space and truly colonize Mars, ordinary people must have the possibility of going into space. Ordinary people do not have highly professional knowledge and strong physique compared to professional astronauts, which also makes them encounter more difficulties in space than professional astronauts. What we scientists have to do is to use science and technology to minimize this difficulty and make space more interesting. Just like what we have done with computers. When computers first appeared, the main users were military personnel and laboratory scientists. Due to the lack of convenient operation methods, ordinary people were daunted by it and did not play a big role in promoting the development of human civilization. With the release of Microsoft's graphical interface, computer operation does not require too much professional knowledge. Computers, such artificial brains, have become an indispensable tool for human life and work. From then on, humans truly entered the era of electronic computers. It can be imagined that, if computers continue to use boring and cumbersome command symbol operation methods, professional training must be received before using computers, and the threshold for use will be greatly increased. Human development will be greatly delayed due to the lack of computer assistance. Fang Lanshan suddenly realized that what Mosey Technology is doing now is exactly what Microsoft had done in the past. A gold rush town in the western region of the United States. Good morning, Mayor Balazs. Good morning, Mrs. Greta. Is your little Mike's leg better? God bless, it's much better now. Thank you for your concern. Good morning, Mayor Balazs. Good morning, Yeri. I heard you are going to Los Angeles to work. Yes, my son has found me a job as a janitor there. I will leave after the soybean harvest is finished. Greeting passers-by, Mayor Balazs walked slowly on the street, enjoying the happiest moment of the day. Unfortunately, the town is too small. Even if Mayor Balazs deliberately slowed down his pace, it took less than 10 minutes to get to the office. This is a grey and white two-story building that has been eroded by the years and the color can no longer be distinguished. On the dilapidated glass door of the building, naughty children sprayed unsightly words with red paint. Mayor Balazs took out a key stained with green copper rust from his riding boots and turned it gently. The glass door opened slowly with a harsh squeak. This sound seemed even harsher. Maybe we should ask Pete for some butter. Mayor Balazs frowned, or we should hold a fundraiser to replace a new door. However, at the last fundraiser dinner, the residents of the town only left a mere $5 after they cleared out all the food. Maybe we should only invite good townspeople this time, such as Mrs. Greta, Bootlegger Wilson, Farmer Luama, and Celestino, who is said to have saved a lot of money when he was young. Beep. Beep. Just as Mayor Balazs was counting the guest list for the charity dinner, a car horn sounded behind him. He leaned his head out and saw a truck with the US Postal Service printed on it parked in the center of the town. The narrow street was tightly blocked. Old Balazs, there's a litter. Hurry up, I still have to go to Chimo Town. On the truck, a bearded man wearing a blue hat urged in a hoarse voice. Brother Dizzy, how are you these days? Mayor Balazs took the letter thrown by the bearded man and greeted him warmly. The bearded man waved at him, stepped on the accelerator, and a cloud of dust rose from the back of the truck. I haven't seen Dizzy for half a year, and his temper is still so hot. Mayor Balazs shook his head and picked up the envelope in his hand. Recipient, Adam Burr. Adam Burr? Is there a resident with this name in the Gold Rush town? Mayor Balazs walked into the office with a puzzled look on his face. The gravity generator is a mistake. Chapter 402 Adam Burr. Adam Burr, residence, Hartley Village. Half an hour later, Mayor Balazs successfully found the name on the envelope from the Gold Rush Town resident registration book, but the doubt on his face did not diminish at all. Hartley Village, hasn't it been abandoned for a long time, and there are still people living there? The handwriting of this resident registration information from 20 years ago was exactly the handwriting of Mayor Balazs, but he had no memory of this name in his mind. If you can't figure out something, don't think about it. This is the survival rule of the town. Mayor Balazs put down the registration book in his hand, poured a cup of coffee as usual, picked up the newspaper from a week ago and was about to open the entertainment page. But his eyes couldn't help but glance at the letter on the table. He has been the mayor of the Gold Rush town for more than 30 years, and he has always considered himself an excellent mayor who knows every resident of the town. But the appearance of this letter, like a sharp sewing needle, pierced his cognition. Mayor Balazs drank the little coffee in the cup and picked up the letter. He wanted to know who this damn Adam Burr was. Hartley Village was less than 20 kilometers away from the Gold Rush town, but more than half of the 20 kilometers was a narrow road. Mayor Balazs drove carefully, fearing that he would fall into the deep ditch beside the road if he was not careful, so when his old pickup truck with black smoke coming out of the tail appeared at the entrance of the village, it was already noon. Like all the nearly abandoned villages in the jurisdiction of the Gold Rush town, Hartley Village was deserted. In the lush trees growing randomly on the ground, rotten wood can be seen everywhere, which is a masterpiece of termites. Without residents, this place has become a paradise for wild animals again. Groups of gray squirrels are playing on the branches of tall chestnut trees. When they see a strange iron guy parked under their homes, they all throw down the nuts in their hands. The nuts fell on the roof of the car, making a clang clang sound. Damn these guys. Mayor Balazs honked the horn a few times, and the gray squirrels on the chestnut tree alertly went into the tree hole, and the surroundings fell into silence again. Without the harassment of the indigenous people, Mayor Balazs looked at the path at the entrance of the village again. The path was very narrow, and there were no bends on the green grass on the side of the road, and there were no rats or traces of large animals on the dirt road. This was a completely abandoned village. Mayor Balazs hesitated for a long time, and finally did not have the courage to leave the pickup truck. He loaded the pistol on his waist, then took out a police horn from the storage box on the co-pilot, and shouted out the window, "Adam Burr! Adam Burr, I'm Balazs, the mayor of the Gold Rush town, and here is a letter for you. If you can hear me, please put your hands on your head, and come to the entrance of the village." The huge sound that had never been heard in decades echoed in the village, startling a large number of black vultures. "Adam Burr, I'm Balazs, the mayor of the Gold Rush town. Here's a letter for you. If you can hear me, please put your hands on your head and come to the entrance of the village." Just when Mayor Balazs was thirsty and decided to give up his exploration journey and let the damn letter go to hell, an old man with gray hair wearing shabby jeans came out of the bushes on the side of the road, holding a colorful pheasant. Mayor Balazs put down the police horn, stretched one hand to his waist, opened the car door with the other hand, and shouted to the old man, "Adam Burr?" The old man nodded heavily, hung the pheasant in his hand on the tree branch, and raised his hands. Mayor Balazs' hand left his waist. "I'm the mayor of the Gold Rush town. How come I don't remember you?" Adam Burr smiled. 20 years ago, when I went to your office to register, you seemed to be hungover. I heard from the mayor's assistant Miss Gemma that you just had a wedding with the blacksmith's daughter." Mayor Balazs completely let down his guard when Adam Burr mentioned Miss Gemma. Because Miss Gemma died 18 years ago, some new residents or fugitives from outside didn't know she existed at all. "Here's your letter." He took the letter out of the car and handed it over. "I didn't expect you have relatives in Anatolia." Adam Burr reached out to take the envelope and stuffed it into his trouser pocket, his eyes flickering. "A distant aunt I've been in contact for many years." As he said that, he was about to turn around and leave, as if he was anxious to enjoy the pheasant dinner. Mayor Balazs didn't continue to ask questions. Compared with the distant aunt in Anatolia, this Adam Burr seemed more suspicious. How did a person live alone in this deserted village for nearly 30 years? What did he do 30 years ago? Why did he come to the Gold Rush town? There are many questions. But Mayor Balazs doesn't care about these. As long as Adam Burr obeys the law in the town and doesn't cause trouble, he is a good citizen of the town. He also has to dare to rush back to the town before 1 PM. Because if he misses this time, the only restaurant in the town will be closed. What Mayor Balazs didn't expect was that Adam Burr, whom he called a good citizen, was standing under a big tree with a torch. A small house stood on the thick branches high up in the tree. He climbed up the trunk with agility that didn't match his gray hair and threw the torch in his hand into the small house. The flames rolled. All traces of 30 years were annihilated. There was no salute, no food, no water. when Adam Burr crossed more than 50 kilometers with his legs and appeared on the side of an interstate highway. He was exhausted. Fortunately, the most enthusiastic people always live in the desolate West. A Beetle slowly stopped in front of Adam Burr. The car window was lowered, and a blonde woman wearing sunglasses looked curious. "Uncle, hitchhiking?" Adam Burr nodded slowly. The woman was too young. "What a pity." 10 days later, the former resident of the Gold Rush town appeared on the streets of LA, a prosperous city in the United States. He wore a pair of sunglasses and held a map in his hand. "No 218, Beatrice Street, Louisiana. This is it," he muttered and stepped into a residential building. Room 314. After carefully checking the house number, knock on the door gently. On the steel security door, a black eyeball appeared in the palm-sized square hole. Giloo, gurgle. Adam Burr's mouth was tightly closed, and a strange sound came from his abdomen. The pupil of the eyeball in the square hole contracted. There was a sound of iron chains colliding inside the door, and the steel security door opened slightly. The person who opened the door was a child in his teens. He looked terrified. "Is it time, farmer?" "It's time, breeder." Adam Burr took out the crumpled letter from his trouser pocket and handed it over. On the brown paper envelope, there were a few strange symbols scribbled. The child looked as if he had seen the most ferocious poisonous snake. His face turned pale, and he stepped back a few steps. Gurgle, gurgle. The strange sound in Adam Burr's abdomen sounded again. The child's pale face showed a trace of despair, and he took the envelope with trembling hands. Adam Burr smiled, knowing that his mission had been accomplished. Chapter 403 Secret. Is it time, breeder? It's time, stargazer. Is it time, stargazer? It's time, fisherman. Is it time, fisherman? It's time, postman. The farmer committed suicide by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. The breeder died by jumping off the roof of the animation center. The stargazer died by hanging himself on the bar of the dance studio with a red ribbon. The fisherman died by drilling through the raft in the sea. Silently, 4.4 babies are born every second in human civilization, and the death of 4 civilized individuals seems insignificant. Only the postman did not die, and he carried the letter from Anatolia to the Rocky Mountains in New Mexico. The wild mountain bike went along the rugged mountain road until the end of the most rugged mountain road. At the end of the road, there was a steep rock wall more than 20 meters high. There was no hesitation. The postman took out a bundle of climbing ropes from the luggage box behind the motorcycle and rushed straight to the rock wall. He was as agile as a monkey. After climbing the rock wall, the postman saw a dark cave in front of him. He looked at the cave, and the cave also looked at him. There was no fear in the postman's eyes. In the sunshine, he took off all his clothes, coat, shirt, pants, and then folded them neatly, placed them under a small tree, and pressed a small stone on them. The naked postman endured the friction of the sharp rocks under his feet and walked into the cave. The cave was pitch black, and the smell of dampness and decay hit him in the face. The postman carefully bypassed the sharp rocks on the ground. The rustling of leaves disappeared, and the chirping of birds disappeared. There was only silence in my ears. I don't know how long I walked, 1 hour, or 10 hours. In the dark and silent cave, time seemed to stop. Just when the postman's feet were covered with tiny cracks, a ray of light appeared in the depths of the cave. The appearance of the light did not bring the postman the slightest surprise. He walked into the light with an expressionless face. In the light was a stone room. The walls of the stone room were so smooth that no trace of man-made work could be found. On this smooth surface, countless copper wires were interwoven. This was a metal mesh. The metal mesh completely covered the entire stone room, and in the light, it was shining with a golden color. In the golden color, a young-looking young man was sitting cross-legged on the ground. The postman had a solemn face. "High priest, there is a letter from my hometown." He rolled the letter into a cylinder, stuffed it into the metal mesh through the tiny gap, and then prostrated himself on the ground. The young man's eyelids trembled slightly, and he frowned, as if he was waking up from an endless sleep. After a long time, he finally opened his eyes, and his eyes flashed with a strange blue. "How long has it been since my hometown sent a letter?" 81 years. The postman gave an accurate number without hesitation. "Yes, the last time was because of those disobedient Italian troops." The young man stood up. picked up the letter from the ground, and tore the envelope casually. There was only a palm-sized leaf in the envelope, which was covered with strange symbols. Obviously, the high priest, as the recipient of the letter, could fully understand these strange symbols. He frowned, and seemed dissatisfied with the information expressed by the strange symbols. A strange Chinese disturbed the peace of my hometown. Chinese? The high priest gently threw the leaf at his feet, his eyes full of old age that did not match his age. Who is this Chinese? His casual attitude seemed to be sure that the man crawling on the ground knew everything. Aware of the high priest's gaze, the postman trembled unconsciously. Zhao Sihei, he is Professor Liamo's bodyguard. But he should not have found anything. Since you specifically explained that no action against Professor Liamo is allowed, the peripheral organizations under our control did not take action. Just at this point, the postman hesitated, and a drop of cold sweat oozed from his forehead. The corners of the young man's mouth rose, and a strange smile appeared on his face. Did someone from Laojia do it? The postman nodded. This time it was the guardian who did it himself, using bloody red. It is said that Laojia gave the order personally. Bloody red? A strange smile bloomed on the young man's face. I haven't heard this name for many years. Laojia is really forgetful. In just 81 years, has he completely forgotten my ban? Or is it that Laojia is really old? Has more than 5,000 years made his brain become like a paramecium? Which possibility do you think is more likely? The high priest threw this question to the postman. The fear on the postman's face became even more intense, and big beads of sweat dripped on the rocky ground, making a faint sound, which was particularly harsh in the silence. High priest, Laojia will always be your most loyal servant. Perhaps, in the past 1,000 years, you have paid little attention to the development of the tribe, and Mr. Laojia has been acting beyond his authority. Perhaps. The young man looked at his explanation with some amusement. After a moment, this playfulness turned into boredom, and he waved his hand lazily. I know that when my hometown was born in my hands amidst the thunder and lightning, his mission in this life has been determined. But, endless loneliness appeared on the young man's face. But when can I get out of this cage? The postman crawled on the ground, motionless. He knew that the high priest would tell a secret that no one should know. He believed that no one, or country on earth, had the ability to imprison the high priest 5,000 years ago. The Kaka tribe with sharp spears did not have this ability. 5,000 years later, the M country with 13 large aircraft carrier formations did not have this ability. Only the high priest himself can imprison himself. As for the reason behind it, even the hometown with a lifespan of more than 5,000 years is not clear. He is just a postman, whose only duty is to deliver information, and he should not hear any secrets. He is looking forward to it in his heart. Fortunately, the young man seemed to hear his inner expectations and sighed. How did the guardian deal with the aftermath? Every time after using the blood red, it needs to be recovered from the body, so that it can grow. Deal with the aftermath. The postman understood instantly, and he breathed a sigh of relief. No need to deal with the aftermath. No need to deal with the aftermath. The surprised expression appeared on the young man's face for the first time. The postman smiled bitterly and said, according to the information monitored, Zhao Sihei is not dead. Not dead. The young man's face was even more surprised. The blood red didn't take his life. It shouldn't be. Where did the mistake go? Mistakes are absolutely not allowed to happen. This is the motto that allows the young man to survive to this day. Realizing his doubts, the postman said, the plan is perfect. The guardian sent by the hometown wrapped the blood red in the finest ice crystals, and then shot the ice crystals into Zhao Sihei's calf. He tried his best to describe the whole process in detail, because any omission might lead to the high priest's misjudgment, and the high priest would never make a mistake. It can be predicted that Zhao Sihei, who was unaware, will fall into a coma in 12 hours and die in 48 hours. The hometown specially arranged 2 sets of eyes to monitor Zhao Sihei 12 hours later. Zhao Sihei, who had just returned to China, collided with a lady at the airport and was sent to the hospital. Because there were cameras everywhere, the eyes did not enter the hospital, but chose to wait. Unfortunately, this wait was fruitless. After 48 hours, there was no news of death in the hospital. 96 hours later, Zhao Sihei, who was alive and kicking, appeared at the door of the hospital. So far, the mission record has ended. Changes are always hidden in the details. Who did Zhao Sihei come into contact with during the 48 hours in the hospital? The young man felt a kind of curiosity in his heart, which had not appeared for hundreds of years. He even thought that he had lost interest in what happened on Earth. A total of 51 people have come into contact with Zhao Sihei, including Professor Li Mo, Wang Jiayi, and Academician Wu. Obviously, the postman had an excellent memory. He skillfully recited a long list of names. Even the aunt who used to clean the IQ ward was among them. Academician Wu, it shouldn't be him, although he is an authority in the medical field. But he is only an authority among humans, far from being able to kill the red without harming the patient's body. 5,000 years ago, a young red almost took my life. Its horror is far beyond the cognition of humans on Earth. Wang Jiayi, the daughter of a wealthy businessman, the founder of Daoshao short video. It is impossible. Perhaps intentionally or unintentionally, the postman put the name that appeared first on the list at the end. Professor Li Mo. You are the last possibility. The young man muttered to himself with a puzzled look. Excluding all the impossibilities, the remaining impossibilities are also the truth. The young man lowered his head and clenched his fists. Is it really you? Professor Li Mo. He was unwilling to accept this result, but he gladly accepted the only possibility. This may also be a kind of law of the universe. Then what? The high priest raised his head. Then, the postman's face showed a confused look, and he could not understand what his master meant. Where did Zhao Sihei go later? He returned to Li Mo and continued to serve as a bodyguard. Or did he go somewhere else? The young man had to explain the problem in more detail. The postman finally understood, and he quickly replied. According to the report from the Eye, Zhao Sihei appeared in a factory in southwest China shortly after following Professor Li Mo back to Mozi Technology. His duty was to train the newly joined security personnel. The young man's face showed a surprised expression again. TSK, it's really the kind-hearted Professor Li Mo. Do you need me to send someone to get rid of Zhao Sihei? The postman boldly made a suggestion. Although he didn't find any clues this time, it's hard to guarantee. The young man frowned. Solve. Zhao Sihei is not the key to the problem. Since he didn't find anything, let him go. Why is the high priest so kind this time? 300 years ago, a group of European explorers who strayed into the tribal territory directly became food for crocodiles. 60 years ago, the messenger responsible for information transmission was hit and killed by a high-speed car while performing his mission. The letter containing the secret was sent to a police station in London. On that day, a riot broke out among prisoners in the police station. The prisoners accidentally ignited the gunpowder magazine, and all 316 people in the police station were killed. What about Professor Li Mo? The postman asked again. He had organized several limited attacks against the Chinese, but the results were not satisfactory. Just as the postman was about to mobilize the guardians to continue the attack mission, he received a ban issued by the high priest. Hearing Li Mo's name, envy and a little sympathy appeared on the young man's face. He turned around and said, "Time is almost up. Let's continue to wait. I'm really looking forward to it. The ban remains in effect. Without my order, no one in the tribe is allowed to approach Professor Li Mo, including my hometown." After saying this, he waved his hand tiredly. Seeing this gesture, the postman knew that the delivery mission had been completed, and he backed back into the darkness. The young man murmured to himself, "Have you discovered a glimmer of the truth? It's really exciting. Science fiction is not fantasy." Chapter 404 Ordinary People on Mars. All things are difficult at the beginning. When the first step of a long journey is taken, the remaining 999,999 steps will be particularly easy. This is the case with Mozi Technology's Mars base project. This is also the case with Liu Jiangsheng, a former power maintenance worker. When he saw the Earth turned into a blue ball, Liu Jiangsheng truly realized that his journey to Mars had officially begun. Communication with the Earth had been interrupted. He endured the great pain brought by the acceleration of the spacecraft and tried his best to put a smile on his face. The road ahead was unknown. Liu Jiangsheng had to leave the Earth with a smile, leaving his home planet, where he had lived for more than 30 years. In his mixed emotions of excitement and panic, the navigator finally arrived at its destination, Mars, after more than 10 days of full-speed sailing. When the spacecraft entered the orbit of Mars, Liu Jiangshan did not even have time to look through the glass window to see the full view of the red planet. The captain and operator Yang Weik-Wen gave the order to land. It was very smooth, and the navigator landed steadily at the preset coordinates. There was a burst of applause in the spacecraft. Liu Jiangshan let out a long sigh and couldn't help cheering. His exaggerated behavior even attracted the attention of the spacecraft safety officers Iroke. In the dark night, he was awakened by nightmares countless times. In the dream, the spacecraft suddenly exploded for various reasons, and all the crew members died, including himself. This nightmare always troubled Liu Jiangshan. Fortunately, the reality was that the spacecraft had successfully completed the landing. After signaling to the safety officer that there was no problem with his body and consciousness, Liu Jiangshan quickly took out the spacesuit under the seat. Mars, here we come. When the fiery red sun rose from the east, the navigator took off again and quickly disappeared in space. Liu Jiangshan, who was stranded on the surface of Mars, smiled at the two construction workers beside him. Start laying the foundation. It is particularly easy for the strong Liu Jiangshan to carry construction materials on the surface of Mars, a planet with only 1/3 of the gravity of the Earth. Jiangshan, what grade is your daughter in? Yu Shiluo, who was mixing sand and cement with a round-headed shovel, asked through the intercom installed on his helmet. Liu Jiangshan has a daughter, which is a fact known to all the crew members of the navigator. Because he would put the family photo at the head of the bed every time before going to bed. The little girl with two pigtails in the photo snuggled in Liu Jiangshan's arms with a very bright smile. 9 years old, just in the 3rd grade of elementary school. Liu Jiangshan opened a bag of cement and poured it all into the yellow sand. As for the proportion, the scientists on Earth had already made it. Oh, my kid is already 25 years old. Yu Shiluo spread the mixed cement in the deep pit dug by the space excavator. 25 years old? Liu Jiangshan took a kettle from Shirindao and poured it carefully into the container without spilling a drop. After sailing 55 million kilometers, these fresh waters are particularly precious. Have you married yet? In the chat of ordinary people in China, marrying a wife is always a hot topic. No, there is a girl I like. Her family wants a dowry of 150,000 yuan and a house. Yu Shiluo skillfully spread the cement. The child just finished school and works in a factory. Although he earns 8,000 yuan a month, his expenses are not small. And I'm just a bricklayer. How can I save so much money? The voice revealed the helplessness of a father. Oh. Liu Jiangshan was stunned for a moment. The house prices in your southern county are almost 10,000 yuan, right? Liu Jiangshan came from an economically backward village in the north, but the house prices in the county have exceeded 8,000 yuan per square meter. The economy in the south is developed, and the house prices should be even higher. It's already exceeded 15,000. Perhaps because he talked about his worries, Yu Shiluo stood up and took the opportunity to rest. Although the gravity on Mars is much smaller than that on Earth, it is not an easy task to work while carrying a spacesuit weighing more than 200 kilograms. A small 3-bedroom apartment of 120 square meters needs 1.8 million in full payment and a loan of more than 2 million. With the betrothal gifts, car purchases, wedding banquet expenses and other miscellaneous expenses, it will take at least 2.5 million. When can we save enough on Earth? Feeling sorry for the parents, Liu Jiangshan nodded slightly, secretly glad that he only had one daughter. Yu Shiluo sighed, but you can't blame the girl. Who doesn't want their daughter to marry a good family? The people of China are so simple. At this time, there were only 3 Earthlings on Mars, and Liu Jiangshan didn't have so many concerns. He looked at Shirindao who was tying steel bars in the pit. Zioshi, I came to Mars for the establishment. Of course, it seems that the benefits of Mosey Technology employees are better now, so I don't need this establishment. Yu Shiluo is saving money for my son to marry a wife. Why did you come to Mars? Shirindao is the youngest among them, less than 23 years old, and should not have tasted the hardships of life. However, this child is quite introverted. He has not said much since landing on Mars. Shirindeo was stunned for a moment and put down the hook in his hand. My mother is in the hospital. His work of tying steel bars, which is the most common on construction sites on Earth, is extremely dangerous on Mars. Whether it is a sharp steel bar hook or a sharp galvanized steel wire, it will pierce the fragile spacesuit if you are not careful. If the spacesuit is torn, he will explode and die like a fish that was thrown onto the shore in the deep sea. Hospitalized? Liu Jiangsheng lowered his tone a little. What disease? Diffuse large B-cell lymphoma. Shirindeo lowered his head and said, a kind of cancer. Liu Jiangsheng didn't know what this tumor was and didn't know how to comfort him, so he asked casually, can it be cured? In the perception of ordinary people, cancer is a terminal illness. What the family members of patients with cancer should do is to take the patients home, serve them with good food and drink, and show more filial piety. Why did Xiaoshi come to Mars? It can be cured. Shirindeo gave an answer that was beyond Liu Jiangsheng's cognition and perfectly explained his doubts. But it costs money. It costs a lot of money. It turned out that Xiaoshi came to Mars to treat his mother's cancer. Liu Jiangsheng tried to praise Xiaoshi with some touching sentences, but his poor cultural knowledge limited his expression, so he could only say, you are a good child. The atmosphere fell into awkwardness for a while. Well, let's sing a song. Liu Jiangsheng decided to ease the embarrassment and suggested, how about singing Our Workers Have Power? I have never been a worker. I have only delivered to Kiat. I can't sing this song. Shirindeo shook his head. Yes, Xiaoshi is only 23 years old and can't sing this old song. Liu Jiangsheng thought for a moment. How about Jie Chao's nunchaku? Hehe. At this time, Yu Shiluo raised his hand. I haven't heard of it. Finally, pleasant goat, beautiful goat, lazy goat, boiling goat, slow goat, soft and mian, red wolf, and big bad wolf. Don't look at me as just a sheep. The green grass becomes more fragrant because of me. The childish songs echoed in the helmets of the three people. On Earth, in the command center, Fang Lanshan stared at the scene on the big screen. His face moved and said to himself, there is no noble goal, no grand speech for all mankind. These three ordinary people have embarked on the road of changing human civilization because of realistic reasons. This may be exactly what Professor Liemo wants to see. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 405, Ink Discharging Craze. Usually, as an assistant, Zhao Dan would put the latest company report on the desk, make tea, and then leave the boss's office. He knew that the boss liked quietness, but today he seemed a little abnormal. The report was already in the boss's hand, and white hot steam was coming out of the teacup. Zhao Dan stood in front of the desk with a complicated expression. Liemo raised his head from the report. Do you have something to do? Yes. Zhao Dan nodded, and then shook his head. No. Is it yes or no? Liemo wanted to laugh. Zhao Dan usually behaved very steadily. What happened today? Although Zhao Dan was a latecomer, he had a calmness that Xia King did not have. He was not panicked when encountering things, and was not surprised when dealing with things. What happened today? Liemo said, putting down the report in his hand. If you have anything to say, just say it directly. You should know that there are not so many rules here. Liemo, who has become a big boss, has participated in many so-called celebrity parties. In these parties, he has also seen many aristocratic styles behind the dignity in front of people. In the minds of these nobles in front of people, they have become existences beyond ordinary people with a lot of money. The staff around them are like slaves in the old days. In Mosey technology, the existence of nobles and slaves is absolutely not allowed. Boss, should you pay attention to the work of the External Relations Department? Zhao Dang's face flushed, because giving suggestions to the boss has exceeded his duties. External Relations Department? Liemo frowned. Is it because of the recent anti-emo craze in Western society? Zhao Dang nodded. Please invite Minister Yang of the External Relations Department to the office. Liemo ordered. As the MOSI technology Mars base project entered the substantive construction stage, an inexplicable anti-MO craze appeared in Western society. Mars is about to be occupied by the Chinese. They are building a colony on the rich planet of 55 million. This is an evil practice. Mars should belong to each and every one of you. Under the instigation of the media, the public began to boycott all MOSI technology products. Of course, this boycott is limited to products under the MOSI technology brand. As for quantum chips and Marxing batteries, they are not included in the boycott list. On the bustling 7th Street in London, there was even a parade with banners. I don't know where they heard that the evil scientist chairman of MOSI technology has a special hobby for banners. They want to use banners to express their inner anger. However, MOSI technology's products are very expensive. Very expensive. For example, a bottle of mineral water with an umbrella shield logo costs as much as €100. A roll of MOSI Technologies carbon fiber toilet paper costs €150. In other words, the parade crowd is not the target customer of MOSI technology at all. So in this month's financial statements, sales in Europe and the United States have increased instead of decreased. However, as an individual, being called an evil scientist is not a good thing. And as an excellent company, in addition to having good financial reports, reputation is also very important, because reputation often represents a sense of social responsibility. How to alleviate this boycott sentiment has become the task of the MOSI Technology External Relations Department. LMO is well aware of the ability of Western media to confuse right and wrong, and the pressure that Aung Sasa, who has just taken office, is under can be imagined. Knock knock. Just as he put the report in his hand into the cabinet behind him, Aung Sasa pushed the door open. Sit down. Facing his former classmate, LMO was particularly polite. Boss, what do you want to talk to me about? Aung Sasa looked calm. Only then did LMO realize that the words of encouragement he had prepared could no longer be said when facing this stubborn girl. Stubborn. That's right, the biggest impression left by this class monitor in college on LMO was stubbornness. Stubborn and tough. Everything is stronger than people. Stubbornness made Aung Sasa choose to transfer to another department, choose to study for a doctorate, and choose to start a business. Unfortunately, this stubbornness is worthless in the face of reality. In the end, Aung Sasa, who failed in her business, joined MOSI Technology under the persuasion of several old classmates. Boss? Aung Sasa asked again, pulling LMO back from his memories. Oh, LMO thought for a moment, trying to find the right words. I heard you've been very busy recently. Did you encounter any difficulties at work? A typical boss is concerned for his subordinates. No. Aung Sasa's eyes widened and gave an unexpected answer. Several veteran diplomats from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs are very cooperative, and our publicity activities in foreign countries are proceeding in an orderly manner according to the plan. The publicity plan has already been presented to you. LMO knew that, after Aung Sasa took office, he used his connections to re-employ several veteran diplomats, and then formulated a complete global publicity plan. He was extremely in favor of this approach, because MOSI Technology is no longer an ordinary multinational company, and sometimes the words and deeds of publicity personnel will be maliciously exaggerated by malicious media. With the supervision of veteran diplomats, it is possible to avoid unnecessary omissions. But these are not enough to resolve those malicious attacks, such as the current MOSI wave rising in Europe and the United States. Stubborn. Still stubborn. LMO shook his head. Children's stubbornness is often praised because they are cute. But the stubbornness of adults is not so cute, because they have long left the life of the ivory tower and entered the real society. In the real world, this kind of stubbornness often means wishful thinking, which will eventually bring great trouble to MOSI Technology. Really? Thinking of this, LMO felt that he could not let her go on like this. He stood up and took out a survey report from the cabinet and handed it over. This is the latest public opinion survey report from BC Nielsen. Survey target: favorability of MOSI Technology Laboratory. Survey subjects: European and American residents aged 8 to 60. Survey population: 1 million people. According to the report analysis, in the past month, the favorability of European and American residents towards Mozy technology has dropped from the original 70% to 49%, a cliff-like drop. How does your external relations department explain this phenomenon? Mozy Technology spent $2 million on this report from BC Nielsen. However, Aung Sasa was surprised, and Liemo felt that the money was well spent. The favorability has dropped so much. Aung Sasa frowned and flipped through the report. According to our estimates, although European and American people are not satisfied with our Mars-based plan of Mozy technology, but with our good image, we just need to wait. After the storm passes, the declining favorability will rise again. However, a drop of up to 21% in 1 month means that the subsequent decline will be even more intense. The original publicity plan can't save this decline at all. She couldn't sit still anymore and stood up from the chair. Liemo nodded slightly. Although Aung Sasa was stubborn, she was very professional and keenly noticed the key to the problem. That is, when the favorability dropped sharply, it was difficult to recover through ordinary means. She frowned and walked around the office, shaking her head from time to time, as if denying the plan she had just come up with. Then how should our Mozy technology deal with this situation? Aung Sasa finally decided to ask her boss for advice. Her dedication to work finally allowed her to overcome her stubbornness. Stubbornness was shattered. She had to admit that the former little brother in front of her had already surpassed her and became an unsociable existence. Liemo smiled slightly. First, withdraw all publicity plans. Aung Sasa looked puzzled. Without publicity, won't the rate of decline in favorability be faster? This external relations director is still too young. Liemo, do you know what the world's large multinational companies often do when facing scandals? Aung Sasa's eyes lit up, and she answered excitedly, no response. They will refuse to comment on the scandal and wait for the incident to subside. Boss, I understand. Aung Sasa waved her hands. Now any publicity activities carried out by our Mozy technology in Europe and the United States will be maliciously interpreted by those media, resulting in counterproductive effects. I will ask them to immediately stop the Mozy Technology Culture Exhibition, to be held in the UK. As she said, she took out her mobile phone and typed a line of text and clicked send. Done. Aung Sasa put her phone back into her handbag. Then what? What should we do next at Mozy Technology? Liemo looked at her and paused the cultural exhibition thousands of miles away because of a text message and smiled slightly. When Aung Sasa was selected as the director of the External Liaison Association, her execution ability was the main factor. As a rapidly developing company, Mozy Technology needs this kind of execution ability the most. Then we wait slowly. Liemo had no expression. Wait. Aung Sasa looked puzzled. A gleam of light flashed in Liemo's eyes. Wait for an opportunity. The greatest pleasure in this world is that no one can predict the future. And this unpredictability often means the arrival of opportunities. In the end, Aung Sasa left the office with a dazed look on her face. Chapter 406 Troubles. People all over the world, rich or poor, noble or humble, have their own troubles. Troubles can be big or small. For example, whether to eat beef or hairy crab for lunch is a small trouble. For example, tomorrow is the final exam, and there are still more than half of the key points marked by the teacher that have not been read. This kind of trouble is a big trouble. Liemo's trouble is the construction of the Mars base, and Aung Sasa's trouble is the declining popularity of Mozy technology, but their troubles are not as big as the trouble of an countryman. No one wants to face a person with big troubles, because this often makes him a punching bag. But the beautiful Natasha has to face it, because she is a close assistant. The person with huge troubles is her boss. Moreover, she knows that the documents in her hand will bring greater troubles to her boss. Natasha stood in front of a grey-brown wooden door with a delicate luster, took out a mirror from her pocket, carefully adjusted her facial muscles in front of the mirror, and finally let a nearly perfect smile appear on her face, like a bud about to bloom. Then, she unbuttoned the top button of her shirt collar. She took a deep breath, and knocked on the wooden door in the most elegant posture. FXX, get in here. A rough roar came from the door. Natasha's almost perfect smile did not change at all. She gently pushed open the wooden door. The office was in a mess, and various data reports were scattered all over the floor. As if she didn't see the scene that seemed to have been hit by a hurricane, Natasha straightened her calves and walked into the office elegantly in high heels. Of course, as a professional personal assistant, she did not forget to close the open wooden door. Musk, this is a collection notice from Mellon Bank. She knew that this rocket madman was different from ordinary corporate bosses. He liked his subordinates to call him by his name directly. Sure enough, Musk, who was sitting in a chair with his head in his arms, had his eyes wide open and looked incredible. Collection notice? The loan we have at Mellon Bank will not be paid for another quarter. Natasha did not answer this question. As an assistant, she only needed to put the received document on her boss's desk. In fact, she did so. I understand, Jim. It's the NCAA. Musk looked at the 9-digit number in the bright red seal on the collection notice, and a ferocious look appeared on his face that he had never seen before. Natasha knew that her boss was really in trouble this time. Even after the explosion of the SpaceX Starship, which was highly expected by the whole American people, Musk, the owner of the Starship, just sat under the starry sky for a night. When he appeared in the company the next day, his face was full of his usual confident expression again. But this time, since Musk attended the special meeting held by the NCAA, his temper has become unprecedentedly irritable. Sometimes even Natasha deliberately put on black stockings. She couldn't feel his straight eyes. And Jim is the director of the NCAA. Natasha, who graduated from the Ivy League, instantly understood why the matter started. The NCAA was forcing Musk to do something he didn't want to do. Understanding the cause of the matter does not mean that it can be solved. Of course, how to solve this trouble is not her responsibility. What Natasha needs to do is to be beautiful, just like she is squatting on the floor to pick up the scattered papers. She is sure that from the boss's position, she can only see a hint of beautiful scenery. Vagueness is the real beauty, which is also what she learned from the special training class. Just as Natasha was about to change her posture and show this vague beauty from different angles, Musk's voice came from behind. Natasha, let me ask you a question. If someone is holding a gun and forcing you to do something, if this thing succeeds, it will bring you huge wealth and status. But if it fails, it is very likely to cause the death of 10 innocent people, and you will also be caught in huge criticism. What would you do? Opportunities always come so suddenly, and the standard smile on Natasha's face changed a little, and the flower bud quietly bloomed. That person is holding a gun, right? She raised her head, making her pointed chin and smooth neck form a perfect curve. The end of the curve is vague beauty. Then any decision you make in this situation is a reasonable choice. She knew that the man who had experienced the storm already had the answer to the question. Asking this question was just to convince himself with his own answer. Musk murmured to himself, yeah, this is not my choice. God will forgive me. The last trace of hesitation on his face gradually disappeared. He picked up the phone on the table and dialed a number. Jim, let's start the march to Mars. Confidence is the greatest charm of a man. Natasha found that the charming man in her mind was back, and her eyes were full of joy. The world is so wonderful. When a woman is happy about something, there may be another woman who is unhappy about it. And the unhappy woman is Gemini. She has 2 children. The eldest son has just started elementary school, and the youngest son is only a few months old. At the same time, she is also the wife of Luke Shepard. Luke Shepard is the most famous astronaut in the United States. This fame is based on his 5 trips to space. And in the last return from the sky, he used a spare spacesuit to block the cracks in the spacecraft and saved the lives of 3 astronauts. With 2 lovely children, living in a luxurious villa in the White Area, and a celebrity husband, Germany, who lives a happy life, was in a bad mood these 2 days. She didn't even notice that the baby crawled to the bed. Luke, can't you communicate with your old boss Pete? She put the clothes that had been folded into the suitcase and said to the man sitting in front of the dressing table, you are still 1 month away from 40 years old. You should have retired long ago. Why do you want to go to Mars as the captain? Luke Shepard was sitting in front of the dressing mirror, carefully looking for a strand of white hair hidden in his hair. He didn't want to be called an uncle by those rookies. Hearing his wife's words, he frowned. I volunteered. In fact, I'm very grateful to Pete for his recommendation. Over the years, I have been exercising every day just to have this data return to space. And this time the destination is Mars, a distant place we have never been to. With pirate blood flowing in his veins, he is full of adventurous spirit. Never been there? Germany asked. Aren't the Chinese building a base on Mars? She really couldn't understand Luke's so-called adventurous spirit. Point that's different. As a proud American, Luke Shepard was unwilling to admit this backwardness, so he had to say, this time Musk's SpaceX Conqueror can carry 10 crew members. China's Navigator can only carry 5 crew members at most. In Germany's view, Luke at this moment was like a poor student who told his parents proudly, I'm better than the top student in the class because I eat more than him. She was about to make a sarcastic remark. With a thump, the sound of wah 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 came from under the bed. The naughty child took advantage of the quarrel between the two parents to start his own adventure. Unfortunately, adventure often means getting hurt. Dimmer, are you okay? Chapter 407 Bunker. The rocket maniac's goal this time is Mars. SpaceX Mars can carry 10 Earth tourists. 120 engines. Musk's ultimate move. The US National Aeronautics and Space Administration has decided to bring Mars under the jurisdiction of the US. When Liam flipped through the thick stack of newspapers sent by Zhao Dong, he showed a surprised expression. Is Musk going crazy? He wants to tie 120 engines together, stuff them into a large barrel with a diameter of 18 meters, and then ignite the large barrel. This is his right. The key is that there are 10 astronauts in this large barrel. This is murder. He couldn't bear to see a murder case happen in the sun, so he picked up his phone and searched for the name of Rocket Maniac in the address book. Dial the phone. Hello, Professor Liam. A slightly unexpected voice came from the phone. Musk. What is the probability of your SpaceX Mars successfully reaching Mars? Liam asked directly. He believed that as the best private rocket launcher in the United States, it would not have failed to conduct the most basic probability test. Musk on the other side of the phone seemed to be confused by his question. After a long time, a guilty voice came from the phone. 80%. According to the calculation of the engineers, the probability of Mars successfully reaching Mars is 80%. Musk did not lie, and he was not going to lie, because this was a meaningless thing. 80%? Liam unconsciously emphasized his tone. With an 80% probability, you dare to send 10 astronauts into space. Let them risk their lives to realize your dream. 80%, a seemingly high probability, is terribly low in the field of space launch, because when a rocket appears on the launch pad, it needs at least a 99.9% success rate. Even so, accidents in the aerospace field continue to occur frequently. Does the NCAA allow you to do this? Liam asked strangely. Behind Musk's Space Exploration Technologies Corporation is the NCAA, which provides SpaceX with a lot of technology, personnel, and funds. At the critical moment, it would rather give up its own launch plan and give SpaceX the order to launch satellites. There is a strange close relationship between them. In theory, Musk's launch plan must be approved by the NCAA. But why would the NCAA approve such a launch plan that failed the success power test? He realized something and said in a lost voice, is this exactly the order of the NCAA? Alas, Musk on the other side of the phone sighed, I have an urgent meeting to attend. Thank you for your concern. After that, he hung up the phone directly. Beep. Liam held the disconnected phone and fell into a daze. This was the first time someone hung up his phone. Although the person who hung up the phone was a legendary rocket madman, it was still unpleasant. If it rains, let it rain, and if it wants to marry, let it go. Liam can only pin his hopes on Musk now. Perhaps this man, who is also legendary, can really send a pieced together spacecraft to Mars with an 80% success rate. However, even so, at the regular meeting of the Mars base project team held in the morning, after listening to the report on the progress of the Mars base construction, he still put forward a new requirement to the aviation experts of the project team: design a set of space rescue equipment for the Navigator. This can also be regarded as a way of doing one's best and leaving it to fate. After arranging all this, Liam started today's real itinerary, taking the first civilization recorder of the Earth, Gabo Walker, and the laboratory waste Wugushi, to the newly built Earth civilization room. That's right, Wugashi, the old man who only knows how to eat and raise dogs, also went to the Earth civilization room. In the endless Gobi Desert, 3 speeding off-road vehicles raised dust, and wherever they passed was the road. Liemo, who was sitting in the front row, looked through the rearview mirror, and looked at Wugashi, who was sitting in the back row, lying on the car window with a surprised look on his face, and shook his head helplessly. In fact, he still doubts whether Gabba Walker is crazy enough to hire Wugashi as his assistant. He is even willing to pay the assistant out of his own pocket. Liemo cannot help but agree to this. After all, this Waymozi technology can save at least 20,000 yuan in expenses every month. When Wugashi finished telling the man in the ear for the 3rd time, they finally arrived at their destination, this time a lonely grey bunker in the Gobi Desert. There are no decorations or windows on the outside of the bunker, only a large dark grey iron door. The grey color makes it look ugly in the bright sunlight, like a toad lying on the ground. This bunker uses a special kind of concrete that can withstand the attack of strategic nuclear weapons with a TNT equivalent of 10 million tons. Liemo first introduced its stability. Is this the Earth civilization room? Wu Story's eyes were blank. It's too shabby. Unlike Wu Story's disgusted expression, Gabba Walker's face was full of surprise. Beautiful. So beautiful. This quaint design completely expresses the reality of things. As he said that, he gave a thumbs up. Professor Liemo, I didn't expect that you also have a very high attainment in architectural design. Liemo was stunned. He just abandoned all the embellishments in the design of the bunker for the sake of saving money. After all, this is not a scenic spot, so there is no need to consider the feelings of tourists. Let's go in. He was praised for no reason, and he felt a little guilty. He walked to the big iron door and pushed it hard, and the iron door opened. Did you save money on the door lock? Wu Story asked in surprise. He knew how stingy this former boss was. Not necessary. Liemo shook his head. You will understand when you walk in. Sure enough, Wu Story understood the first moment he walked into the bunker, because there was nothing in the bunker. Maybe the big iron door is also redundant? Is this the civilized room? Wu Story realized the seriousness of the problem at this time. He didn't want to stay in this place without even a bed for a year. Without any hesitation, he walked up to Gabba with a pitiful expression on his face. Dear Mr. Gabba, you see I'm also old and weak. I can't stay in this environment for too long, and I can't be your assistant. And this lazy dog, lazy and likes to eat chicken legs. Here, it will take its life. As he said, he quietly kicked the big yellow dog lying on the ground with his foot. The big yellow dog made a wang wang sound, as if to express his approval of the owner. Gabba Walker was at a loss in the face of Wu Story's wonderful performance. Dear Wu, this is just a ground building. The real civilized room is built in the rock layer 500 meters below. And, according to Professor Liemo's planning and design, the civilized room stores a lot of food, a lot of chicken legs. So that's it. I was too careless. Wu Story had no embarrassment on his face. As a punishment, I will tell you the man in the ear again. Chapter 408 Human Rock Paintings. There are 2 entrances to the Earth civilization room. Liemo patted the wall and the wall slowly moved, revealing an elevator. This is the elevator passage, which is the main passage for daily entry and exit of the civilization room. Then, he walked to the center of the bunker and stomped heavily on the ground without any traces. A circular hole appeared on the ground. Inside the hole, the stairs spiraled and led into the darkness. This is the staircase passage, which can be used in an emergency. Of course, since the Earth civilization recorder has not officially started work, I can easily open these 2 exits. Once the civilization recorder officially moves into the civilization room, these 2 entrances and exits cannot be opened from the outside, even if I'm the designer. Gabba Walker nodded frequently. As a place to preserve the records of human civilization on Earth, the Earth civilization room must have sufficient self-protection capabilities when natural disasters or man-made disasters occur. After introducing the entrances and exits of the civilization room, Liemo turned around and entered a long string of numbers on the elevator panel, and the elevator door slowly opened. Are you going to take the stairs? He saw Gabe Walker and Wu Story still staring blankly at the black round hole. Before he finished speaking, the big yellow dog ran into the elevator first, making a humming sound, as if explaining his choice. Even dogs are unwilling to climb the stairs, let alone people. Gabe Walker and Wu Story hurriedly entered the elevator. Liamo pointed to the camera on the top of the elevator and said, "This is a camera with biological collection and face recognition functions. Once a suspicious object enters the elevator will immediately lock and sound an alarm. At the same time, the exhaust fan installed on the top of the elevator will exhaust all the air in the elevator within 5 minutes. And the lifting of the alarm requires the authority of a civilized recorder. This is not an elevator at all. It's simply a gas chamber." Gabe Walker shrank his neck unconsciously and asked in a low voice, "Suspicious? What is a suspicious object? Isn't there some kind of pass card or whitelist to remove this defensive measure?" He also encountered this kind of security check measure when he was interviewing a big shot who liked to drink coke. At that time, those black suits wearing sunglasses removed it with a thin card. There is no way to remove this defensive measure. Liamo shook his head. In the entire civilization room, all living animals, except the civilization recorder, are suspicious objects. At this time, the big yellow dog who had been lying in the corner of the elevator barked twice. Wan Wan. Wu Gushi, who had been in a daze, asked weakly, "Does it include me and Ahuan?" "Of course." Liamo nodded. "Unless you and this dog have become two corpses." Wu Gushi and Dahuan dog, one person, one dog, both looked resentful. "Dahuan, did you hear that? You can't walk the dog unless you want to become a braised dog." Woo woo. Is the love between man and dog not over? The atmosphere in the elevator suddenly fell into embarrassment. Fortunately, with a ding-dong sound, the elevator door slowly opened, saving Liamo from embarrassment. He couldn't wait to step out of the elevator. Outside the elevator was a long corridor, with patterns engraved on the rock walls on both sides of the corridor. Rock painting. "Professor Liamo, you have engraved the evolution of human civilization here." This time, without waiting for Liamo to introduce, Gabbo Walker walked forward with shining eyes and stroked the cold rock painting with trembling hands. "It's so beautiful. Look at this lovely prokaryotic single-cell organism. Doesn't it look like a budding girl? Wow, there is also this representative crocodile of egg-laying vertebrate reptiles. Its hard armor and sharp teeth are simply a great masterpiece of biological evolution." Gabbo Walker admired each rock painting with an obsessive look, until the last one. On this rock painting, an animal walking upright on two legs is engraved. It holds a stone spear with two claws and looks up at the distant starry sky. "We are here," Gabe Walker muttered to himself. Seeing his fascination, Liamo had to interrupt him. "Next, I will introduce the real door of the civilization room. Only when we step into this door can we really step into the civilization room." As he said, he led the two people and the dog to the end of the corridor. At the end of the corridor was a stone door carved from a whole piece of granite. On the stone door, there were 8 patterns. "What is this?" Gabe Walker looked confused. At this time, Wu Gushi behind him stepped forward and gently pressed the pattern with his hand. "Password. This should be the secret to entering the stone door, right?" Gabe Walker became more and more confused. "The password is generally composed of Arabic numerals and English letters. These patterns should be the 8 strokes that make up Chinese characters. How can they be passwords?" "Yes, how can Chinese characters form passwords?" Liamo sighed in his heart. Gabbo Walker's understanding of passwords represents the general understanding of most people on Earth. Passwords should be composed of letters, numbers, and symbols. There are objective reasons for this understanding, because electronic computers were originally invented by foreigners, and the mainstream programming language in the world is also English. Microsoft's Windows system occupies a large share in the computer system industry, and passwords are naturally composed of English, numbers, etc. But what is not known to the public is that using Chinese characters as passwords has higher security, because there are nearly 100,000 Chinese characters, and there are also thousands of Chinese characters used in daily life. These Chinese characters are composed of 8 strokes. Compared with the 26 letters of English, it has a natural advantage in quantity. Even Mozi technology has provided a method for Chinese character encryption in the latest mobile phone system. Of course, Liemo would not tell the civilization recorder in front of him what he was thinking, but smiled slightly. Guess. I can tell you clearly that this is a password door. Only by guessing the password can the stone door be successfully opened. Otherwise, let's go back together. Mosey Technology will recruit another civilization recorder. This can also be regarded as a test for Gabba Walker. If he cannot decipher the password, it means that he lacks sufficient knowledge of human civilization and is naturally not qualified to take on the job of a civilization recorder. As the test questions were announced, Gabba Walker's face showed a serious expression. He frowned and walked to the stone door, staring at the 8 strokes. After a moment, he showed a happy expression on his face, tapped the 8 strokes with his fingers continuously, and then was full of expectations. To his disappointment, the stone door did not respond. Gabba, what word did you write just now? Wugashi next to him understood that Gabba was tapping the strokes according to the writing order of a Chinese phrase. Liemo. Gabba looked disappointed. I just wrote the boss's name on the stone door. Chapter 409 Breaking News. Is this considered flattery? Liemo looked at Gabbo, who looked disappointed, and shook his head helplessly. Sometimes, he really couldn't understand the foreigner's train of thought. Isn't it the boss's name? Gabbo scratched his head and input a word on the door again. Failed again. What did you write this time? Wugashi showed a happy expression. He seemed to be very happy to see the future boss suffer a setback. Mosey Technology. Gabbo patted his head heavily. This foreign old man was on the verge of madness. It's still wrong. What is it? Wugashi looked mysterious. Why don't you try the 5 words Earth Civilization Room? Gabbo shook his head. Is there really someone so stupid to use the name of the civilization room as a password? Wugashi, how do you know it's not right if you don't try it? Try it. Gabbo took a deep breath and pressed the 8 strokes engraved on the stone door in the order of writing Chinese characters. Unexpectedly, the stone door slowly opened. Yes, the idiot is me. Liemo glared at the 2 stunned people. Boss, the idiot was said by this foreign old man, not me at this time. Liemo's mobile phone beeped. Hello, this is Liemo. Gabbo and Wu Story could clearly see that the boss who answered the phone looked more and more ugly. They also put away their playful attitude. Liemo hung up the phone and sighed. I was going to take you to visit the entire civilization room, but now it seems that it is not possible. There is an emergency meeting that requires my participation. Wu Story said quickly. It's okay. Old Wu, will definitely assist Mr. Gabbo to perfectly complete the work of the human civilization recorder. Liemo shook his head. Before leaving, there is another important thing to do. That is, Mr. Gabbo needs to take the oath of office as a civilization recorder. Oath. Gabbo was surprised. Liemo took out a piece of paper from his pocket. Due to time constraints, the tedious steps will be skipped. You just need to read along with me. Only after you take the oath can you become a true recorder of Earth's human civilization. Gabbo nodded heavily. Me. Earth human Liemo. Earth human Liemo. Wrong. Not wrong. Yes. Not wrong. Yes. You. Repeater. If Liemo had not tried his best to suppress his inner anger, this foreign old man would have spent his first day in office with a bruised face. Finally, after several corrections, Gabba swore with a serious face. Earth human Gabba. I swear here that I will be loyal to mankind, loyal to facts, and record the history of human civilization in a realistic manner. Seeing that Gabba had finally completed the oath, Liemo hurriedly took the elevator back to the ground. In the open space outside the bunker, a helicopter was hovering at a low altitude. Seeing Liemo's figure, a soft ladder was lowered from the helicopter. Liemo climbed the soft ladder while swaying. Professor Liemo, a young man in a black uniform, pulled him up on the helicopter. I am. Liemo answered loudly as he could amid the hum of the propeller. The helicopter accelerated rapidly and soon disappeared over the Gobi Desert. This was not the first time Liemo had taken a helicopter, but it was the first time he had taken such a fast helicopter. The helicopter, operated by the pilot's superb skills, roared in the air like a cannonball. Of course, it would not be so comfortable to sit in a cannonball. So, when Liemo stepped on the ground again, he staggered, bent over and almost vomited. "Boss, I'm sorry to invite you back in this way." A man in a dark brown Zhongshan suit hurried over, his face full of apologies. Liemo pinched his waist and panted, "It's okay. But Fang Lanshan, can't you send a better plane next time?" The man in the brown Zhongshan suit was Fang Lanshan, the vice president of Mosey Technology. He looked puzzled. "Is this helicopter not good? This is an enhanced version of the R-64 Apache, equipped with an air fire support system, an observation fire control system, a pilot night vision system and an AGM-116 Thunderbolt anti-tank missile. It can reach a speed of 400 km per hour and is enough to cope with unsaturated fire attacks. Since you are in the Gobi Desert, this is the best means of transportation I can think of while ensuring safety." Hate. This is the first time that Liemo hated Fang Lanshan's inhumane rationality. He took a deep breath. "Tell me, what happened to the NCAA Mars?" On the phone, Fang Lanshan told him vaguely that the Mars of Country M had a malfunction on the way to Mars. This is why he hurried back to the headquarters of Mosey Technology Laboratory. Since the NCAA and Musk of the United States have not announced this news, we don't know the specific emotions yet. Fang Lanshan handed over a document. "This is an old friend of mine and the NCAA. The information he sent through a special method is absolutely accurate. According to this internal document, it can be analyzed that the Mars failed in space 16 million kilometers away from the Earth. The cause of the failure is likely to be a cascading failure of multiple engines. Engine cascading failure. Due to the insufficient thrust of a single rocket engine, the Mars bundled 120 engines together to meet the power requirements of the Mars journey. However, this bundling approach has an obvious disadvantage. That is, once one of the engines fails due to high temperature, it is easy to ignite another engine. This disadvantage was clearly told to Musk by Liemo on the phone. I didn't expect Musk to do this." Liemo sighed. "What is the reaction of the NCAA now?" "No reaction. The NCAA just interrupted the live broadcast of the spacecraft and claimed that it was because the live broadcast signal was interfered by space radiation." Perhaps thinking of the past, Fang Lanshan was angry. This is their usual style. Liemo understood what he meant. The best way to hide the truth is to replace it with another fact. Space radiation is a special mixture of gamma rays, high energy protons and cosmic rays, which will strongly interfere with human communication signals. During the journey to Mars, the live broadcast communication between the navigator and the Earth was also interfered by space radiation several times. The NCAA chose this excuse, which is perfect. However, facts are facts. After the Mars, which has lost its power, has exhausted the energy it carries, it will inevitably become an iron box in space. How should the NCAA explain to the public then? Chapter 410 NCAA Conspiracy. I really don't understand. Liemo shook his head. The NCAA and Musk must be very aware of the seriousness of the sudden failure of the Mars engine. But why are they unwilling to announce this news? Or do they have a backup plan? Maybe. Fang Lanshan frowned, as if recalling something. When I was in the NCAA rocket design department, in order to integrate into the work circle, I often went to a bar called Red Spider with my colleagues after work to drink. In fact, since the NCAA headquarters building is located in a remote area, the Red Spider bar is also the only bar nearby. This also makes the Red Spider bar a good place for NCAA employees to go after work. Once, I heard such a message from an employee wearing a special department uniform of the NCAA. They are filming the astronauts who are about to set foot in space. In order to strive for realism, they also specially invited a well-known science fiction director. Situational shooting? Is it the same as imagined? Liemo asked in confusion. What scene was filmed? After the employee said this, he got drunk. Fang Lanshan looked regretful. At that time, I didn't take it to heart. After all, in NCAA, knowing too much is not a good thing. Liemo nodded. Every place has its own survival rules. Fang Lanshan's information is very important. If NCAA lets the astronauts on Mars shoot a whole simulated landing on Mars material in the studio, and then edit and render it, I believe that with the realistic computer special effects production capabilities of Hollywood, even aerospace experts will find it difficult to tell that the landing on Mars on TV in front of them was actually filmed in the studio in advance. This is the plan of NCAA. Liemo understood instantly that NCAA already knew that the failure of Mars was impossible to repair, which also meant that Mars would never reach Mars. The Chinese are building an immigration base on Mars, and the spacecraft of the M countrymen can't even complete half of the journey. NCAA knows that this is a fact that the proud M countrymen cannot accept. So, a perfect plan came out. They only need to broadcast the pre-filmed landing images to the public on TV at the original time of the Mars landing, and then they can claim that the American people's plan to land on Mars has been completely successful. As for the Mars, which has become an iron box, the NCAA can completely say that the Mars had a major malfunction during the return journey, resulting in the sacrifice of all the crew members. Since the mission of landing on Mars has been completed, the public will most likely choose to forgive the NCAA, which is also in grief, while mourning the sacrificed astronauts. A storm caused by man-made disasters was thus eliminated. In the whole thing, the NCAA gained the reputation of landing on Mars, and the American people gained the self-confidence to surpass China. The only losers are the 10 American astronauts on the Mars, who will float forever in the cold universe. Liemo frowned and thought for a moment, if we use the navigator to rescue the M country's Mars now, will we have enough time? Fang Lanshan took out his mobile phone and checked the flight records. According to the information sent back by the navigator, they are now in the airspace 300,000 kilometers away from Mars. According to the speed of the navigator, if we abandon this Mars mission and return directly to rescue the M country's Mars, it will take 12 days. Due to the lack of information on the Mars's food and water reserves, we are not sure how long the astronauts on the Mars spacecraft can last. However, given that the Mars originally planned to take 40 days to reach Mars, now they have only traveled about 16 million kilometers, and the supplies on board should be enough to support them until the return of the navigator's rescue. At this point, Fang Lanshan has completely understood Liemo's plan, and he asked doubtfully, but are you sure you want to let the navigator abandon the Mars landing plan for the sake of 10M country people? This is the last transportation plan for the Mars base project. Once the navigator returns for rescue, the construction of our Mars base will need to be delayed for at least 30 days. He really couldn't understand this approach, because each launch of the navigator would consume a lot of money, and the delay in the construction of the Mars base would disrupt the original plan of Mosey technology, and might trigger a chain reaction. Liemo looked up at the sky. Do you know what the biggest difference between carbon-based organisms and silicon-based organisms is? Carbon-based organisms? Silicon-based organisms? Fang Lanshan was a little confused by this question. Carbon-based organisms refer to organisms with carbon as the basis of organic matter. Silicon-based organisms refer to life composed of biological molecules with silicon skeletons, which is just a scientific fantasy of humans. What is the biggest difference between these two organisms? Of course, the composition is different. Fang Lanshan was about to give his answer when he saw Liemo with pity on his face. Carbon-based organisms have feelings, but silicon-based organisms do not. Those tigers without wisdom still know how to raise their young and help their companions. But silicon-based organisms are just self-replicating cold programs, and they will ignore the elimination of their companions. I'm not a silicon-based organism, and I cannot turn a blind eye to the impending death of 10 Earthlings. Fang Lanshan understood that this kind of humanity of his boss might be the reason why he followed. But as the vice president of Mosey Technology, he must be responsible for Mosey Technology. However, the NCAA did not announce the news of the Mars malfunction, nor did it seek help from us. According to the unwritten rules in the field of international aviation, when a country's aircraft does not send out a rescue signal, other countries shall not rescue it without authorization. If we rashly rescue the Mars, we will definitely be questioned by the NCAA as having ulterior motives, and even cause a diplomatic storm. Fang Lanshan knew that the European and American media were currently criticizing Mosey Technology, and they could easily misunderstand this rescue behavior as an attempt to interfere with the normal navigation of the Mars, and then hype it up. The reason why NCAA dares to conceal the truth so recklessly is that the public cannot understand the true situation of Mars. Liemo understands Fang Lanshan's concerns very well. He knows that sometimes well-intentioned actions are often misinterpreted maliciously. What if we let the people clearly see the current situation of Mars and even talk directly with the astronauts on Mars? Directly talk? Fang Lanshan asked doubtfully. The communication between Mars and the Earth is very complexly encrypted, and the ground command center located in NCAA can analyze it through the key. Liamo turned around and showed a naughty smile like a child on his face. Really? Chapter 411 Contact. Germaine stood there blankly, looking at the broken plate on the ground. This was the 5th plate she had broken in 3 days. At this moment, a loud noise came from the living room. Little Jimmy. Germaine turned and ran into the living room. Fortunately, little Jimmy was standing in the cradle in the living room, staring at a black mass on the ground with round eyes. A meadowlark that broke into the room through the window was lying on the ground motionless. Little Jimmy. Germaine shouted to his son. Little Jimmy pointed at the meadowlark with his finger and made a vague sound from his mouth. This is a little bird. It's lost. Mom will take it home now. Germaine deliberately blocked little Jimmy's sight and quickly threw the meadowlark into the black garbage bag with her gloved right hand. Mom will take the bird home. You have to stay well. Then, she walked out of the house with the garbage bag. Poor bird. Why didn't it see the glass and laid on the window? Now it's good, and the workers will come to repair the window in the afternoon. Germaine threw the black garbage bag into the trash can on the roadside, turned around and was about to return to the room when she caught a glimpse of a grey SUV parked on the roadside not far away. The car seemed to have been parked here for 3 days. Germaine returned to the room as if nothing had happened. Instead of picking up the broken dishes as usual, she sat in front of the computer. She opened her email inbox, and in it lay an email titled "All the people of Im are shocked." Germaine sighed and said to herself, is it true that the Mars has a malfunction and is stranded in space as written in this email? In fact, Germaine often had some bad premonitions in the past 2 days. It seemed that something bad was about to happen. Her grandmother, who was a descendant of the gypsy, once said that Germaine had the potential to be a witch when she was a child. This bad feeling started after the Mars lost contact with the Earth due to space radiation. Could it be that Luke was in trouble? She was nervous at the time. This uneasiness prompted her to call the NCAA headquarters several times, but she received a reply that space radiation still exists and contact has not been restored. Germaine was deeply puzzled by this excuse because she was also a space expert before she became a housewife. It was at a social party that she and Luke met. She called several former classmates and concluded that there is no trace of large-scale space radiation in space. Why does the NCAA hide this information? She dialed the number attached to the email. After a series of beep sounds, a cheerful voice came from the phone. This is the Big Happy Insurance Company. Our company is committed to. Is it a recording phone of the insurance company? It was indeed a prank. Germaine was about to hang up the phone and said something inexplicably. This is Germaine. The cheerful voice on the phone stopped abruptly, as if it was cut off by someone. Instead, there was a sharp squeak sound of electricity. Test 1 test to the line is secure. Germaine, hello. A man's voice suddenly came from the phone. To be polite, you can call me Mr. Z. Germaine held the phone and glanced out through the window. The SUV was still standing there. Then he said to the microphone, hello, Mr. Z. The man on the phone. Identification completed. From now on, in order to avoid unnecessary trouble, you just need to listen quietly. Germaine nodded fiercely. The NCAA Mars, carrying 10 astronauts, is parked in space 16 million kilometers away from the Earth due to engine failure. In order to cover up the facts, the NCAA blocked the communication signal from the Mars. This is a conspiracy of the NCAA. Sure enough, did the Mars really break down? Germaine's heart beat violently, and her voice trembled. How to verify the authenticity of what you just said? She is not a naive person. In fact, the NCAA has conducted professional confidentiality training for the families of astronauts. The first rule of confidentiality is not to believe any information from outside the NCAA. I'm glad you didn't hang up the phone right away. To reward you for your bravery, I'll let you communicate with Mars for 5 minutes. Please remember that the call time is only 5 minutes. Mr. Z reminded him on the phone. In order to calm down his excitement, Germaine stroked the sleeping Jimmy with his hand. The phone was once again filled with a harsh squeak. After the harsh sound, command center, this is Mars, please reply. This was the voice of Kennedy, the communications officer of Mars. Germany clearly remembered that he was a young man who liked to eat Mexican-style pizza. Command center, this is Mars, please reply. Kennedy didn't know how many times he called, and his voice sounded very tired. Kennedy is alive. Then Luke should be alive too. Germany took a deep breath. Luke. Command center, this is oh my god. Captain, there is a response. It's a woman's voice. A chaotic and noisy voice came from the phone. A moment later, a familiar voice sounded. Is this the NCAA's ground control center? Germany tried his best to suppress his excitement. Luke, this is Germany. Germany? Damn it. What's going on? Germany. Disconnect the communication quickly. You are illegally invading the NCAA's communication. Luke's urgent voice came from the phone. This man is still as upright as ever. Germany sighed. Is there a malfunction on the Mars? Yes, but we have notified the NCAA's ground control center. Luke spoke very quickly. They have launched a backup spacecraft to take us home. You should interrupt the signal. This man still has illusions. Germany's eyes were wet. There will be no rescue. In fact, the NCAA did not announce the information that the Mars had malfunctioned. Her short words seemed to break the calm on the Mars. A fierce argument came from the phone. I've said before that the NCAA has not launched any rescue plan, otherwise it wouldn't have blocked our signal. Captain, I have 2 wives and 5 children. I don't want to die in space. This damn Jim, when I return to Earth, I must expose his conspiracy. Germany, are you still there? Luke on the other side of the phone seemed to have noticed something strange. Germany, I'm here. Is everything you said true? Luke confirmed again. Germany stroked his son's soft and fluffy hair. It's all true. I'm willing to swear on little Jimmy. Luke's calm voice came from the phone. Well, there is a suitcase in the bedroom closet, and there is a note in the second compartment of the suitcase. On the note, there is a phone number. You dial that number and give him the recording of the call. I know you must have recorded this call, right? The man was still calm as always. Germany nodded heavily. Yes, I turned on the recording device before answering the phone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 412 Forced. Perfect, but there are loopholes. Jim, the director of the NCAA, was lying on a large leather sofa in his office, smoking a cigar and staring at several women with impressive figures on a TV talent show. What a gifted person. What did they eat to grow up? A trace of transparent sticky liquid flowed from the corner of his mouth. Especially number 12, those long legs, wow. The next second, his eyes blurred. The long legs on TV disappeared, replaced by a flashing black and white spot picture and a noisy sound. Is it a commercial? Jim was a little confused. The noisy voices gradually became clear. Luke. Command center, this is. Oh my god. Captain, there is a response. It's a woman's voice. Is the Mars malfunctioning? Yes, but we have notified the NCAA's ground command center. They have launched a backup spacecraft to take us home. There will be no rescue. In fact, the NCAA has not announced the information that the Mars malfunctioned. I said it before, the NCAA has not launched any rescue plan, otherwise it would not have blocked our signal. Captain, I still have 2 wives and 5 children. I don't want to die in space. This damn Jim, when I return to Earth, I must expose his conspiracy. This is. Jim threw away the burning cigar in his hand and jumped up from the leather sofa. This is the Mars. He clearly distinguished the voices in the recording. It was the crew of the Mars. Damn. How did they get in touch with the Earth? Who is that woman? Then he shook his head because the few lines of big words that appeared on the TV had clearly answered all his questions. Called, Mars Captain's wife, Mars Captain, Mars crew. Call content. NCAA deliberately concealed the information that Mars had broken down. Everything was over. Jim collapsed on the leather sofa. He regretted it so much. He had personally snatched Mars from Rocket Maniac's hands and ended up snatching a hot potato. When a rocket-type spacecraft explores space, the greatest danger often occurs at the moment of launch from the ground. If the spacecraft successfully takes off, it means that the entire exploration plan has been more than half successful. When Mars, carrying 10 astronauts, flew out of the atmosphere and embarked on the journey to Mars, it attracted the attention of people all over the world. This was the most glorious moment in the history of American spaceflight. When Rocket Maniac was about to accept overwhelming praise in front of the spotlight, NCAA, which was controlled by Jim, suddenly issued a notice claiming that the ownership of Mars belonged to NCAA, and the plan to land on Mars was also completely planned by NCAA, and the launch of the spacecraft was only carried out with the help of Rocket Maniac's launch base in the early stage. NCAA then took out a pile of contracts, confirming that Mars was completely owned by NCAA, and now NCAA decided to take over Mars again. In this way, the former owner of Rocket Maniac was kicked aside. At this time, the door of the office was suddenly pushed open, and a young man looked panicked. "Boss, it's bad, CBB TV station was maliciously hacked, and the information about Mars malfunction was broadcast. Now all major TV stations and newspapers in the world want to interview you. Is it to add insult to injury?" Jim did not respond, nor did he stand up. He was waiting for a call that would truly determine his fate. Dingling. Dingling. As he expected, the red phone on the desk jumped and rang a crisp ring. "Hello, this is Jim, the director of NCAA." Jim jumped up from the sofa and took the red phone. Yes, I will do it according to your wishes. Thank you." After hanging up the phone, Jim let out a long sigh, and the uneasiness on his face was swept away. He relit a cigar, took a deep puff, and exhaled thick smoke. Then he turned around and said to the sweaty assistant, "You go and draft a press release. The general content is as follows. NCAA has long been aware of the fact that the Mars has malfunctioned, and the rescue operation is proceeding in an orderly manner. Even Director Jim has fallen into a coma due to continuous work. In order to avoid causing emotional confusion among the public, Deputy Director Paladin personally issued an order to block the Mars signal. As a punishment, Paladin has submitted a letter of resignation to the NCAA. At the same time, we will announce the current situation of the Mars and solicit rescue plans from the world. Here, on behalf of all NCAA employees, I would like to express my most sincere condolences to the crew and families of the Mars. We will always be with you, hand in hand, heart to heart." Jim also had to admire his own wisdom. Everything was caused by the unfortunate Deputy Director Paladin, and had nothing to do with him. Has Deputy Director Paladin really submitted a letter of resignation? The assistant looked puzzled. Director Jim obviously wanted to find a scapegoat, but was this sheep really so obedient? A mysterious smile appeared on Jim's face. If he doesn't resign, he will have to explain to the public where the $30 million mansion and the $18 million luxury yacht came from. With his annual salary, he can't save that much money in 100 years. The assistant understood instantly. "I will write a press release and send it to major news media." China Mosey Technology Laboratory LMO, who has been paying attention to the Mars incident, naturally saw the NCAA's sincere press release at the first time. What an old fox. He sighed and handed the press release to Fang Lanshan, who was sitting opposite. Fang Lanshan finished reading the manuscript and was furious. "It's just a distortion of right and wrong." Jim pushed all the responsibilities onto Deputy Director Paladin, so he can get away with it. It seems that the former NCAA rocket designer has a lot of resentment towards the director. It's also because Fang Lanshan was identified as a spy because of the NCAA's distortion of right and wrong. Liam shook his head. The focus now is not Jim's responsibility. It's how to rescue the 10 crew members on Mars 16 million kilometers away. He had to admire Jim's beautiful hand. While pushing away all the blame, he released a call for proposals to the world, which could express NCAA's determination to rescue the people of the United States. But determination is just determination. Jim should be very clear that with the existing rockets of NCAA, the probability of a successful rescue is zero. After thinking for a moment, Liam asked, "How far is the navigator from Mars now?" about 30 million kilometers, because the spacecraft slowed down in advance when approaching Mars. Now in order to return to rescue Mars, the navigator has to speed up again. As the commander-in-chief of the navigator's launch operation, Fang Lanchen naturally knew the position and status of the spacecraft. Liemo nodded slightly. Well, you leak some current information about the navigator to the outside world. In this information, focus on the latest space rescue equipment on board the navigator. The navigator has always been regarded as an absolute secret of MOSI technology. Although it has made several space trips, the outside world knows very little about it. I believe that this information will be published in newspapers as front page headlines by those reporters and quickly spread to the entire human civilization. Fang Lanchen's eyes lit up. Are you going to force the NCAA to ask us for help? Liemo nodded. Of course. Professional politicians like Jim and the capital behind them will not care about the lives of 10 earthlings. For politicians who can sell their consciences for money, Liemo never hesitates to make the biggest malicious guesses. Chapter 413 Rebellion. Life never stops, work never stops. In the early morning, breathing in the fresh air, NCAA spokesman Drake Phoenix was about to step into the headquarters building to start a new day of busy work, when he unexpectedly found a large group of people in front of the building who seemed to be watching something. Could it be a street artist's performance? He glanced at the time on his phone. 7:40. It's still early. Drake Phoenix squeezed in from the crowd with his laptop on his back. Banners. 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 On 3 white banners, it was written in bold letters. NCAA covered up the truth and attempted to murder American astronauts. Please ask President White to make a decision for the poor astronauts' families. Superman. We need Superman to save us now. Holding the banners were a group of women and children. The women looked sad, and the children's faces were full of timidity. Drake Phoenix immediately understood everything. These people should be the families of the Mars crew. The incident on Mars has now become the focus of discussion on major TV stations. On TV, aerospace experts boasted about various rescue plans. But Drake Phoenix, the spokesman for the NCAA, knew that the NCAA had no rescue plan. Without a spacecraft that can travel 16 million kilometers, any plan is just an empty talk. Now only the navigator of MOSI technology can save these poor astronauts, but those in power will never seek help from the Chinese for political achievements and reputation. This is a dead end. The 10 astronauts on Mars have become the victims of ambition and will eventually become 10 corpses in the cold universe because of the exhaustion of supplies. The sad face of the woman and the innocent eyes of the child. The scene in front of him was like a huge rock falling from the sky and falling directly into the heart of Drake Phoenix, and a crack was smashed out of his solid and cold heart. Drake Phoenix. Drake Phoenix, what are you thinking about? Why don't you answer the reporter's questions according to the draft? The supervisor's urging voice came from the headset. Drake Phoenix came to his senses and realized that he was in the routine press conference of the NCAA. Dozens of cameras under the stage were recording his every move in detail. The reporters were looking at him with expectant eyes, waiting for his answer. Excuse me, has the NCAA decided on what type of rescue plan to choose? A reporter raised his hand, waiting for his answer. Drake Phoenix glanced at the speech in his hand. Lies. 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 The speech was full of carefully woven lies. The scene outside the headquarters building in the early morning appeared in front of him again. The gap in his heart gradually widened, and it seemed that a kind of purity was growing. Finally, the cocoon emerged as a butterfly. Drake Phoenix's face showed an innocence and brilliance that he had never had before. He picked up the speech, tore it into pieces with force, and threw it into the air. Amid the flying paper flowers, he opened his hands and shouted at the top of his voice, "There is no rescue plan. NCAA has already decided to give up on the 10 poor astronauts. Everything you see and hear is a lie. If you want to save the Mars, the only way is to ask for help from China's MOSI technology. They have the navigator." The reporters in the audience were dumbfounded, and the scene was silent. A moment later, the power supply in the press conference hall failed, and the scene fell into darkness. Unfortunately, it was too late. Drake Phoenix, who collapsed on the ground, knew that his speech had been broadcast, live on the news, and spread to the whole world. Maybe, small people can also change the world. He muttered to himself in the dark. Shocking news. NCAA spokesperson reveals the inside story. Shocking. NCAA conspiracy. The story between Director Jim and Mosey Technology Vice President Fang Lanshan must be told. The only savior Mosey Technology. Please ask Professor Liemo to save the poor American people. Liemo looked at the newspaper on his desk with a wry smile. Yesterday, those Western media described Mosey Technology as an evil company and called him an evil scientist on Earth. But today, they compared him to a white lotus and a prosperous sage and a superhero in the news. Is this what it means? To be the mother of the milk? What should we do next? Fang Lanshan was excited. He didn't expect that his boss's little trick would lead to the betrayal of the NCAA spokesperson. He could even imagine the frustrated expression of NCAA Director Jim. Issue a notice to the media, saying that we Mosey Technology are willing to bear huge losses, give up the voyage that is about to be underway, and let the navigator return to rescue the Mars. Liemo carefully considered the wording of the press release. However, the M-country officials and the NCAA need to send a formal request for help to Mosey Technology. Fang Lanshan nodded repeatedly like a chicken pecking at rice. The ball was kicked to the feet of the NCAA again, and Director Jim felt infinite regret in his heart. When the Mars broke down, he should have directly ordered the Ground Command Center to activate the spacecraft's self-destruct device, and then claim to the outside world that the spacecraft was hit by a small meteorite, and it would be over once and for all. Unfortunately, it was too late now. He believed that the navigator of Mosey Technology was already on its way to rescue. If the Mars self-destructed now, it would definitely leave clues, and the situation would be irreversible by then. What should we do now? Should we really bow to the Chinese? Director Jim hesitated again and again, but still picked up the red phone on the desk and dialed a number. Hello, I'm Jim, the director of the NCAA. I need to contact the president for something important. A voice came from the phone. The president is playing golf. Please wait. After a long time, just when Jim was getting anxious, Baideng's voice came from the phone. Old Jim, what's the important matter? The president didn't seem to know about the latest press release of Mosey Technology. Jim said carefully, after working non-stop, our NCAA has produced a perfect rescue plan. Oh, really? President Baideng's tone was full of surprise. Then you implement the rescue plan immediately and rescue those 10 people from the damn space. You also know that the families of those astronauts are now on major news programs, accusing the public of your NCAA of deliberately concealing the truth. Several congressmen have expressed their dissatisfaction to me. If things continue to develop like this, I can't let you stay in the position of director. Director Jim's heart trembled. Thank you, Mr. President, for your concern. But the implementation of the rescue plan requires the cooperation of Mosey Technology. Mosey Technology. Baideng was a little surprised. Is it the private laboratory in China that makes batteries? Yes, Jim said. We need the assistance of the navigator, but Mosey Technology needs you to formally submit a request for help to China. On the phone, President Baideng fell into silence. Director Jim continued. Now all parties are waiting for us to express our views. You also know that the midterm elections are approaching. He knew that as the President of the United States, Baideng could not care about the lives of 10 Americans, but he could not afford the loss of votes. In the United States, all politicians' performances are for the votes in the hands of voters. Sure enough, a sigh came from the phone. I will let the Grey Palace office submit a formal request for assistance to China. Chapter 414 Rescue. November 11th. The former Singles Day has long become a shopping festival for the younger generation. Every year, those e-commerce platforms and merchants will make a lot of money on this day. Online store customer service is on standby. The courier waiting to pack is on standby. The logistics truck is on standby. In the e-commerce chain, every link is ready to go, looking forward to the arrival of massive orders. This is a festival for e-commerce people. Unexpectedly, the big merchants on major e-commerce platforms unexpectedly discovered that the traffic on Double 11 today was several times lower than in previous years. In the internet age, traffic means everything, and no traffic means no orders. The expected scene of warehouse explosion did not appear, and the number of orders was even less than the previous warm-up period. Sometimes it is not your peers who defeat you, but opponents who have nothing to do with you. The major e-commerce giants sadly discovered that those users who should have seconded and snatched the goods on the shopping platform were watching the Mars rescue live on the Chinese national television in front of the TV. After a 39 million kilometer voyage, the Chinese Moses navigator finally discovered the Mars of the United States. It was floating in the dark space. If it weren't for the flashing lights on the spacecraft, most viewers in front of the TV would think it was just an ugly meteorite in space. It's Mars. Navigator found Mars. Oh my god. There were cheers in front of the TV. The navigator's hull emitted a huge bright beam of light, shining on the hull of Mars. The rescue was about to begin. The deep space panoramic camera installed on the navigator showed every step of the rescue in real time to the TV audience. This was a complete science fiction masterpiece, and it was no wonder that those users could resist the carefully designed marketing strategies of the merchants. Hello, dear audience friends, this is the navigator. Hello, dear audience friends, this is the navigator. You are now watching the live broadcast of the navigator rescuing the Mars. After discussion with the safety officer Comrade Zioken, I decided to divide the rescue into 3 steps. The first step is to catch the Mars, the second step is to pull the Mars back to the Earth with a rope, the third step is to put the Mars on the ground. Then the rescue is over. The captain of the navigator, Ang Week-won, greeted the audience in front of the TV in a serious manner. Or thrilling space rescue, in his description, is as simple as putting an elephant in a refrigerator. Although he was joking, the audience could see Captain Ang Week-won staring at the instrument panel of the spacecraft and carefully adjusting the speed of the navigator through the live broadcast. He wants to keep the speed of the navigator consistent with that of the Mars, so that the distance between the 2 spacecraft can be accurately estimated, and the initial conditions for the rescue can be created. At this time, the aviation expert of the TV station explained. The speed is slow, adjust. The speed is fast, adjust. Tiny beads of sweat oozed from Ang Week-won's forehead, and he frowned. It was just a little bit short. What a pity. The audience in front of the TV couldn't help but clench their fists and stood up to cheer Ang Week-won. Finally, after 15 minutes of adjustment, the navigator finally kept the same speed as the Mars. Ang Week-won picked up the intercom. Ground Command Center, Ground Rescue Center. The navigator is about to start the rescue of the Mars, requesting permission. The audience in front of the TV clearly heard a familiar voice. Rescue request approved. Wish you good luck. The rescue officially began. Zioken entered a long string of frequency values on the keyboard and officially established communication with the Mars. Mars, this is the navigator. I'm Captain Ang Week-won. Please reply. Ang Week-won picked up the intercom. Oh my god. The navigator is here. We are saved. Thank God. A cheer came from the intercom. Navigator, this is Mars. I'm Captain Luke. Thank you for your rescue. Captain Luke of Mars tried his best to suppress his excitement. This is Navigator. May I ask how the crew of Mars is doing? Do they need emergency medical assistance? How are the supplies on your ship? How many days can they last? Captain Ang Week-won prepared to launch a rescue operation according to the rescue manual prepared on the ground. This is Mars. All 10 crew members of Mars are in good health. The supplies are expected to last for 30 days, but there are no tomato-flavored energy bars. Hearing the call from the navigator on the communicator, Captain Luke finally breathed a sigh of relief. These days, these crew members have been deceived, and even in their hearts, they have long lost the hope of returning to Earth. At this time, a message suddenly came from the ground, informing them that the navigator was about to rescue them. This information made all the crew members overjoyed, but Captain Luke did not smile at all, because Luke, who had carried out several space missions, knew that it was extremely difficult to launch a rescue operation in a space environment. First of all, the biggest difficulty is how to accurately find the spacecraft that needs to be rescued. In the vast space, there is no satellite positioning. A spacecraft is only more than 100 meters long, and it is difficult to find its trace on the radar. Unexpectedly, the navigator actually found them accurately. This means that the rescue has been successful to a small extent. Now it depends on how the navigator will carry out the rescue plan. Captain Luke asked anxiously, how are you going to carry out the rescue plan? Do you need the cooperation of the Mars? Captain Eyeing Weak One replied, "No, you just need to turn off the engine and wait quietly for us to rescue you back to Earth." As he said, he slightly adjusted the angle of the navigator so that the radar image of the Mars appeared in the center of the bullseye. Is this going to launch weapons to shoot down the Mars? The audience in front of the TV looked at the live broadcast screen in confusion. Is this going to bomb the Mars back to Earth? Aren't you afraid of blowing the spacecraft into pieces? After several adjustments, the Mars has been completely locked. Launch. Captain Eyeing Weak One issued an order, and the safety officer's eye quickly pressed a red button. There was no smoke from missile launches, no flames from violent explosions. A huge black mechanical claw was launched from the navigator, dragging a thick rope at its tail, and flew straight to the Mars. What is this? This is a Shuangfei Liao, an ancient Chinese weapon. Some viewers who love traditional martial arts in front of the TV immediately recognized the prototype of the black mechanical claw. Several kilometers away, the black mechanical claw accurately hit the Mars. There was no spark of steel collision. The black mechanical claw magically adhered to the surface of the Mars. Start the reinforcement device. With the order, the security officer's eye turned a blue button. A sharp drill extended from the center of the black mechanical claw. The drill rotated rapidly and instantly drilled through the surface of the Mars. Then, a transparent sticky substance secreted from the claw, sealing the tiny gap between the drill and the surface of the spacecraft in 1/1000th of a second. Shuangfei Liao, ZHU, an iron claw shaped like a human palm controlled by a rope. Except for the thumb, each finger of the iron claw has 3 sections, and there is a mechanism between each section, which can be flexibly extended and retracted. After the iron claw hits the enemy, the user uses a rope to control the mechanism, which can make the iron claw go deep into the enemy's body, making it impossible to escape. Chapter 415 Flagship Store. From the launch of the mechanical claw from the navigator to the mechanical claw firmly grasping the Mars, the whole process took only 15 seconds. The audience in front of the TV was stunned. This ancient weapon actually has such a use? Mars, this is the navigator. Are you ready? Let's go home. Captain Eyeing Weak One called in a relaxed tone. Ready. Ready. Thank you, navigator. Let's go home. Captain Luke saw a black rope between Mars and the navigator through the porthole, and was almost speechless. Obviously, these Chinese people plan to use this rope to pull Mars back to Earth, just like rescuing a new energy bicycle that has lost power on Earth. Let's go. 3 blue beams of light spurted out from the lower part of the navigator, and the beams of light rotated to form a beam of light vortex. The navigator began to accelerate. Under the traction of the black rope, Mars followed the navigator on the journey back to Earth. Long live Ura. My God. On board. On Earth, viewers around the world cheered and celebrated the first space rescue of mankind in various languages. Although they were thousands of kilometers apart, the feelings between human individuals could not be wiped out. At this time, the navigator, which entered the acceleration state, was interrupted by the interference of the magnetic field, and the live broadcast signal was interrupted. According to the news from Mosey Technology, the navigator and Mars are expected to return to Earth in 20 days. Let us send the Mars sincere blessings. The host of the national television station said in a high tone, "Wish them a safe journey." Now, please watch the variety show sponsored by Jinxie Shopping Mall, Pindade, and Teo Bayo, Shopping, Dear. The 30-hour rescue live broadcast finally ended, and the e-commerce bosses in front of the TV breathed a sigh of relief. These 30 hours were their most exciting 30 hours, because the navigator carried out an unprecedented space rescue of the Mars. At the same time, it was also their saddest 30 hours, because the few orders meant that the profit of this Double 11 might not be enough to pay for the promotion fee this month. Fortunately, several e-commerce giants also noticed this dilemma and spent a huge amount of money to buy the time slot after the national TV live broadcast. They wanted to use this variety show to remind users in front of the TV, "Dear, the items in your shopping cart have been reduced in price. Pay quickly." Unlike the Chinese, who are reserved, Europeans and Americans are full of enthusiasm and boldness. They always like to inform people around them of their feelings and opinions through parades. So when the live broadcast ended, large-scale parades broke out in major cities in Europe and the United States. The parade crowd held up banners of various shapes and materials and shouted loudly, "Long live Mosey Technology! Long live Professor Liemo! Long live the Chinese people!" It is hard to imagine that just over 10 days ago, the same city and the same parade crowd shouted the slogan, "Drive Mosey Technology out." Even the banners held high by the parade crowd this time were printed with the words "Evil Scientist." As the director of the External Relations Department of Mosey Technology, Aung Sasa looked at the excited faces of the parade crowd on the new screen. She knew that Mosey Technology had a golden medal of immunity from death abroad from then on. Maybe this is the opportunity that the boss is talking about, she said to herself with a wry smile, but the requirements and cost of this opportunity are too high. Only a person like the boss can come up with such a simple and crude plan to tow a spaceship back to Earth from 16 million kilometers away. She has clearly realized that there is now an insurmountable gap between her and Liemo, and the innocent and romantic student days are gone forever. If she had not been so stubborn at the beginning, would things have developed differently? Unfortunately, there is no if in this world. When we meet, we are not seeing. Seeing is still far away, and we cannot meet. The fallen flowers intend to follow the flowing water, but the flowing water has no feelings for the fallen flowers. Just as she was caught up in the petty bourgeois love, the phone on the desk suddenly rang. "Hello, this is Aung Sasa." The call was from Zhao Dang, who notified Aung Sasa on the phone to go to Liemo's office immediately. As for the reason, Zhao Dang did not explain, and Aung Sasa did not ask. She tidied up her slightly messy hair, picked up her handbag, and left the office. "Minister Aung, this is the information just received from the UK. The city halls of Edinburgh and Birmingham have sent a request for friendship to our external liaison office in London. The employee in charge of European affairs was delighted. They hope that our Mosey Technology can open a flagship store in the local area." Europeans react so quickly? Aung Sasa hesitated for a moment and clapped her hands. Everyone stopped the work at hand for a while. The employees of the external liaison office who were in contact with people from all over the world looked up and looked at the minister in confusion. "Now let's count the sales of Mosey Technology's flagship stores around the world, especially in Europe." Aung Sasa was delighted. She thought of a good idea. "I will meet with the chairman later." The doubts on the faces of these employees disappeared. They knew that the minister had a good relationship with Professor Liemo, as if they were college classmates. But they didn't expect that the minister would be summoned twice in less than a month. This seems to have surpassed the relationship of ordinary classmates. However, with a leader who has a close relationship with the chairman, the external liaison department has a better life at Mosey Technology. They put down their work and began to count data from various places. If you have made good achievements, you must let the leaders see it. This is the workplace code that all employees of commercial companies must understand. Even Mosey Technology is no exception. Sales in Europe increased by 1,200%. Sales in the Americas increased by 1,500%. Sales in Africa increased by 500%. Sales in Asia increased by 800%. Liemo looked at the sales growth data sent by Aung Sasa with a dazed look. He called Aung Sasa here today because he had a task for her to complete. "What's the matter with this report?" "Boss, the two cities of Edinburgh and Birmingham in the UK invited Mosey Technology to establish flagship stores in their local areas." Aung Sasa added beside him. "Flagship store? This is a good thing." Liemo's brows relaxed. The Mosey Technology flagship store is not just as simple as selling goods. It can even be said that its original intention was to export culture. The flagship store will occasionally invite members to participate in the Chinese culture seminar. There will be professional Chinese teachers at the seminar to explain the profound culture of China. During traditional Chinese festivals, local members will also receive small gifts that match the festive atmosphere. After several years of development, Mosey Technology has established more than 3,000 flagship stores in more than 200 countries around the world. At the same time, the spread of this soft culture has also aroused opposition from some conservatives abroad. Britain is the representative of European conservatives, and Mosey Technology spent a huge price to establish its first flagship store in London. Chapter 416 is back. Look, they're back. With a cry of surprise, Photographers from more than 200 countries around the world pointed their cameras at the sky. In the blue and cloudless sky, two black spots gradually grew larger. It's the Navigator and the Mars. They're back. Yes, after more than 20 days of waiting, the two spacecraft finally returned to Earth. Liemo, who was standing in front of the window, looked at the cheering crowd with tears in his eyes. The corners of his mouth moved slightly. Zhaodong, has the task of the External Relations Department been completed? Zhaodong, who had been standing quietly beside him, took out his mobile phone and checked it. Boss, everything is ready. Liemo nodded and took a deep breath. Notify Comrade Aang Sasa, it's time for the performance. In the sky, the Navigator and the Mars were getting closer and closer to the ground, and the crowd watching could clearly see a black rope dragging between them. The blue light beam at the tail of the Navigator was spinning rapidly, resisting the gravity of the Earth. The parachute of the Mars spacecraft did not open, and it relied entirely on the power of the Navigator to complete the atmospheric deceleration. Oh my god, the Navigator is going to lift the Mars back to Earth. A Chinese reporter saw the magical scene and instantly thought of the tower cranes used when China built buildings. As a major infrastructure country, tower cranes are widely distributed in construction sites across the country. Mars was like a bundle of steel bars, easily lifted by the Navigator. Flashes of light went off. The reporters present wanted to record this historic moment in their cameras and spread it around the world. The weight of Mars is as high as 50 tons. In order to overcome the gravity of the Earth, this black rope must withstand at least 10,000 tons of tension. Oh my god, this black rope is too strong. It must be the black technology of Mosey Technology. A special correspondent of Nchua has decided to focus on reporting this black rope in the magazine. What surprised the crowd even more happened. When approaching the ground, the Navigator seemed to feel that there was something wrong with the landing position of Mars, and the blue light beam at the tail turned diagonally and moved horizontally. Then, with a light flick, Mars was thrown on the ground. Sharp-eyed reporters found that the Mars had landed in the center of a pre-drawn circle. Wonderful flying skills. A team of ground personnel wearing chemical protective suits quickly rushed to the Mars and opened the hatch. 10 astronauts in NCAA dark green uniforms emerged from the Mars one after another. They had different expressions. Some cried with their heads in their hands, some screamed to the sky, some danced strangely, and a middle-aged astronaut in a captain's uniform crawled on the ground and refused to get up for a long time. Did they seem to be a group of lunatics? The crowd did not laugh at them, but applauded instead. They knew what these young men had been through. When two yellow-skinned young men walked out of the Navigator, the applause became more intense. They wanted to send their most sincere gratitude to the two heroes who saved the Mars. At this time, a woman in a grey professional suit, black stockings, dark green high heels, and holding a microphone appeared at the launch site. She said with a smile, "Welcome to all journalists and media friends. We at Mosey Technology have invited a special guest to celebrate the success of this space rescue. Please welcome the arrival of Mr. Pan Jinwen, Secretary General of the United Nations." As she spoke, she pointed to a bright black RV next to the launch site with her slender white hand. A middle-aged man with grey hair in a black suit, surrounded by two black-clad bodyguards, got out of the RV. He waved and greeted the crowd with a smile. There were bursts of exclamations from the crowd. "It's really Pan Jinwen, Secretary General of the United Nations. He's here." Mosey Technology actually invited the Secretary General of the United Nations. Unlike the shock of the entertainment and sports reporters, some international news reporters were muttering in their hearts, "The United Nations is an international organization between governments. Why would the Secretary General, who is a symbol of the United Nations, appear at a celebration held by a private company?" These reporters knew that with the acceleration of the process of human globalization, the United Nations, a loose international organization, is playing an increasingly important role in international affairs. Is there a shadow of great power struggle behind this celebration? UN Secretary General Pan Jinwen stood in front of the microphone under the puzzled gaze of thousands of reporters, gently holding up his frameless glasses on his nose and showing a warm smile. "Hello, journalist friends. You must be wondering why I'm here." He spoke in standard Chinese, which attracted a round of admiration. Pan Jinwen turned around and pointed at the navigator and Mars behind him. I'm here for them, for the first cross-border space rescue of mankind. A Chinese spacecraft gave up its planned mission and traveled over 30 million kilometers to rescue an American spacecraft. This is a spirit of human unity. As the Secretary General of the United Nations, Pan Jinwen has a very high level of speech skills. With just a few words, the reporters nodded frequently. His face was solemn. With the development of human technology, the space age is coming. Facing the rich and dangerous universe, this spirit of cooperation is particularly important. In space, we have only one identity, that is, the human beings of Earth. Any attempt to destroy the space exploration plan of another country or others is a crime against all mankind. Here, in order to commend the spirit of cooperation of MOSI technology, on behalf of the United Nations, I will award Professor Lee Mo the title of Ambassador of Human Civilization. Ambassador of Human Civilization? The reporters showed puzzled expressions again. They had never heard of this title. And does the awarding of this title not require a vote of the council meeting? Pan Jinwen continued, the title of Ambassador of Human Civilization is a title specially formulated by the United Nations Secretariat to commend those individuals who have made outstanding contributions to human civilization. The title itself does not involve any international affairs, so it does not need to be voted by the United Nations General Assembly and the Council. Clever. Some senior reporters in the audience instantly understood the cleverness of this specially formulated title. The United Nations Secretariat is composed of the Secretary General and United Nations staff. It is one of the few institutions controlled by the Secretary General of the United Nations. Its duty is to serve the United Nations and its affiliated agencies, and to implement the programs and policies formulated by these agencies. The United Nations has a rule that major issues must be voted on by member states, or the 4 permanent members, but this self-made title perfectly circumvents this rule, while also having the golden signboard of the United Nations. This may be a form of resistance. Chapter 417 Ambassador of Human Civilization. Now, on behalf of the United Nations Secretariat, I will present the title of Ambassador of Human Civilization to Professor Lee Mo. Pan Jinwen took a silk banner from his bodyguard. The banner was embroidered with the words Ambassador of Human Civilization and a pattern of bright stars. This banner was purchased by the staff of the United Nations Secretariat at no cost to the United Nations. Pan Jinwen explained, knowing that his behavior today would definitely annoy many people. Lee Mo looked at the 1-meter-long banner, speechless, and didn't know how the false news that he liked banner spread. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pan Jinwen. He had no choice but to take the banner and hold it high above his head to be photographed by reporters from all over the world. Afterwards, Pan Jinwen, the Secretary General of the United Nations, who had completed his mission, hurriedly left the desert Gobi Desert. He had to rush back to the headquarters to deal with the upcoming storm in advance. Now, please invite the crew of the Navigator and Mars to meet everyone. Aang Sasa said with a happy face, holding the microphone. The reporters, who had just been a little tired because of Pan Jinwen's departure, regained their spirits. The highlight is coming. Today's so-called celebration of MOSI technology is full of mysteries. The disinfected crew members of the Navigator and Mars, led by their respective captains, walked down from a minibus. In front were the captain of the Navigator, Aang Weik-Wan, and the safety officer Zhao Ken. Behind them were the 9 burly American astronauts led by the captain of the Mars, Luke. A warm applause rang out again in the crowd, and they wanted to use this applause to celebrate the rebirth of the Mars. Hello, everyone. I'm Luke, the captain of the Mars. The 30-year-old astronaut took the microphone first, with a complex expression of joy and regret on his face. First of all, I want to lead all the crew members of the Mars to express the most sincere gratitude to the Navigator. It is they who saved our lives. As he said, under his leadership, the American astronauts, who were arranged in neat formations, bent down at the same time and bowed deeply to Aang Weik-Wan and Zhao Ken. Secondly, I'm very grateful for the selfless spirit of Professor Lee Mo of MOSI Technology. He did not treat us differently just because we are from M country. Just as Mr. Pan Jinwen, Secretary General of the United Nations, said, Professor Liemo played a role model of civilization when the Earth opened the space age. As he said, the astronauts of M country bowed deeply to Liemo again. After expressing his gratitude to his savior, Luke's face was much more relaxed. Finally, I would like to make a major decision on my own behalf, that is, to resign from the NCAA. From now on, I'm no longer an astronaut of M country. There is no trace of nostalgia, no regrets. The captain of the Mars, who had just returned to Earth, actually announced his resignation directly. This is a shocking news. The crowd in the audience was in an uproar, and reporters raised their hands one after another. This is a celebration party. Are reporters allowed to ask questions? Luke cast a puzzled look at the owner of this place. Liemo nodded slightly. Luke, who had decided to give up everything, took the microphone and pointed at an American reporter. "Mr. Luke, today is your lucky day." The American reporter was excited. "Mr. Luke, is your sudden resignation related to the deliberate deception of the NCAA?" This question is simple, clear and direct. After the Mars failure broke out, the various actions of the NCAA made the American people and even the people of the world dissatisfied. In their eyes, the NCAA has become a corrupt bureaucracy that does not care about the life and death of astronauts for the sake of merit. Unfortunately, the NCAA denied deliberately deceiving the public, claiming that it was just a rescue strategy. It would be great if we could learn the truth from the mouth of this Mars astronaut. The reporter was full of expectations. Luke held the microphone when the Mars was stranded in space 16 million kilometers away. "My crew and I thought we were doomed. In fact, we had prepared to face death before we set off. At this time, the NCAA Ground Command Center told us that the backup spacecraft had been prepared and would soon enter the launch process to take us home from the dark space. At the time, we believed this reason without hesitation, because before the Mars plan began, the NCAA claimed that there were 2 Mars spacecraft, one of which was used as a backup spacecraft to deal with emergencies. The entire Mars crew was full of hope, waiting for rescue. Unfortunately, what we waited for was the interruption of the spacecraft's communication signal. We lost contact with the Ground Command Center, or the NCAA deliberately blocked the Mars signal. We didn't want to believe that this was a deliberate act, and the crew took turns calling the ground. At this time, a familiar voice suddenly came from the communicator. It was my wife. She told me that the Mars had been abandoned by the NCAA, and the humans on Earth had no idea that the spacecraft had malfunctioned. Speaking of this, Luke waved his arms and shouted angrily, "This is deception. This is naked murder. If there were no Mosey technology in the navigator, my brothers and I would have died in despair in the dark and empty space." He sighed. "As astronauts, we can face death calmly, but we cannot tolerate deliberate deception. So, I decided to resign," he said, and walked straight back to the lounge next to him. "I resign." Another Mars crew member walked to the microphone and announced his decision. "I resign." The 10 Mars crew members all announced their resignation from the NCAA the moment they returned to Earth. The reporters stared at this scene in amazement, and the atmosphere at the scene fell into a state of stagnation. At this time, Aang Sasa, with a smile on her face, picked up the microphone and pointed to the back of the press corps. "The men in hats in the back row, do you, the NCAA, have anything to say about the sudden resignation of the astronauts?" The reporters turned their heads and found that the staff sent by the NCAA to meet the Mars had been staying at the scene. They were looking at the accusation made by their own astronauts with gloomy faces. "Excuse me, what does the NCAA think of the fraud charges made by the captain of the Mars? Will the simultaneous resignation of so many astronauts affect the NCAA's space exploration plan?" Reporters surrounded them with cameras and the scene was in chaos. Liemo shook his head and said to Zhao Dong beside him, "Arrange more security personnel to prevent these guests from afar from getting hurt." Zhao Dong's eyes lit up. Liemo turned and walked towards the small building in the corner of the launch site, where a special guest was waiting for him. He gently pushed the door open. "Professor Liemo, Musk." The 2 men clasped their right hands tightly together. The next day, when people who had just woken up from their sleep looked at the huge headlines on the website, they couldn't help rubbing their eyes. "Have I traveled to a parallel space? Rocket Maniac announces joining Mosey Technology." Chapter 418. The initial conditions are the most difficult. Miracles always appear at the last moment. Because the navigator returned to rescue the Mars, it took more than a month. Just when Liam thought that the mission of the Mars base would be difficult to complete on time, and was ready to accept the system punishment, a voice suddenly came from his mind. Beep beep beep. Congratulations, the new mission has been completed. This is the mission completed. He was ecstatic. He smiled at the rocket madman who was sitting on the sofa and was dreaming about the space program, and hurried into the bathroom in the office. Squatting on the smooth toilet, he silently said, Pajero. Pajero. Grey fog filled the air. A pink learning machine in the shape of a rabbit appeared in the fog. Click task options. Mission. Civilization expansion requirements. Establish a human Mars base completion progress. 100% reward. 2 million subject experience points, already issued, 1 ordinary lottery. The mission was indeed completed. It shouldn't be. According to the construction progress of the base, it will take at least 10 Earth days for the Mars base to be fully built. Is there a miracle? Could it be that the 3 Earth construction workers on the surface of Mars have turned into Supermen because of cosmic radiation? Liam exited the grey fog space with doubts, picked up his mobile phone, and dialed Fang Lanshan's number. Old Fang, what is the current construction progress of the Mars base? Fang Lanshan on the other side of the phone hesitated for a moment. In recent days, the great scientist has asked him this question several times. In fact, he has already submitted a complete construction schedule. However, as a subordinate, you should never refuse the reasonable request of your boss. Fang Lanshan stared at the data displayed on the computer screen and replied, according to the progress, it will take another 12 days to complete the construction of the base. Sure enough, it has not been built yet. Liam's doubts were even greater. Could it be that there was a problem with the learning assistance system? Fang Lanshan on the other side of the phone seemed to be explaining, you also know that the surface environment of Mars is very complex, and we only have 3 construction workers. Their progress is already very fast. Just now they completed the inlay work of the last piece of isosilicate glass, which means that the main structure of the Martian pyramid has been built. Capped. The Mars base has completed the capping. On Earth, capping means that the main structure of the building has been completed. Liam understood instantly that the system used the capping as the standard for the construction of the Mars base. Thank you. He hung up the phone with a burst of joy in his heart, leaving Fang Lanshan on the other side of the phone confused. He called out Pajero in his heart and returned to the grey fog space. Click character attributes. 1. Mathematics level. 8, 11 1000/10 million. 2. Physics level. 6, 0/500,000. 3. Chemistry level 6, 0/500,000. 4. Biology level 6, 0/500,000. 5. Intelligence level 6 available points. 2 million this time. Liam did not hesitate at all and manipulated the system panel to add points to physics. He found that the points required for subject upgrades from level 7 to level 8 only require 1 million points, while from level 8 to level 9 it requires 10 million points, which is an exponential increase. Compared with upgrading mathematics to level 9, it is more cost effective to upgrade other subjects to level 8. Character attributes after adding 1. Mathematics level 8, 11 1000/10 million. 2. Physics level 8, 50,000/10 million. 3. Chemistry level 6, 0/500,000. 4. Biology level 6, 0/500,000. 5. Intelligence level 6 available points. 0 lucky draw time. System prompt. You have 1 ordinary lucky draw opportunity. Do you want to draw now? Draw now. Knowing that the system's lucky draw is just a pit, Liam is still full of expectations. Just like a child who enters a supermarket and chooses the fun eggs with built-in toys instead of buying those delicious candies. The mysterious unknown is the fun. The lucky draw wheel with flashing marquees appeared in front of him. Prizes. 1. Ownership of a medium-sized black hole. 2. A star numbered P232761. 3. A resource planet numbered R123290. 4. A diamond asteroid numbered N1567823. 5. A meteorite numbered M122A32E761. 6. 10 cans of energy coffee. 5 celestial bodies magically appeared on the lucky draw wheel this time, ranging from black holes to meteorites. Fuck. Liemo exclaimed in his heart. Is this a system bug or deliberate? Does the learning assistance system think that the development of human technology is too slow and is ready to force the growth of seedlings? Although these celestial bodies are difficult to be effectively developed or reached by the current technology of the Earth's human beings, but they can be traded with the Pajero people. Just like the lucky draw on the Earth, a lucky person who draws a luxury car will not think that the prize is useless just because he can't drive, because he can easily resell the luxury car to others. Liemo has made up his mind. If he draws the first prize black hole, he will exchange it for a reorganized space fleet. Take a deep breath and gently turn the big turntable. The pointer on the big turntable spins rapidly. Congratulations on winning 6. 10 cans of energy coffee. The cold voice of the system came from the grey fog. Routine. Familiar formula. Familiar taste. How come I fell into the system's routine again? Liemo doubted his IQ a little. He smiled bitterly and put the 10 cans of energy coffee into his backpack. Question time. Liemo especially likes the stories of alien civilizations told by the big-headed Pajero. In these real stories, various civilizations are fighting desperately with the cruel universe for their own continuation. Although these civilizations eventually turned into real historical records of civilization, they use their own experiences to constantly alert other civilizations in the universe. What type of story should the big-headed Pajero tell this time? Liemo hesitated for a moment and asked, "Can I ask questions now?" On the high platform grey fog rolled. "Excuse me." The big-headed Pajero seemed to be waiting. Liemo took a deep breath. "I want to know which civilization in the universe has the most difficult initial conditions." The initial conditions of a civilization are the environment in which the civilization is born. In Earth terms, it is whether the civilization has a good birth. Through the stories of the big-headed Pajero people in the past, he knew that there are thousands of civilized races in the universe, and the initial conditions of each race are also very different. For example, the Pajero civilization gradually grew from the slavery of the goody beast, and the Pajero planet does not seem to be rich. The initial conditions of the Pajero civilization should be a relatively difficult level. When humans appeared, the prehistoric monster dinosaurs had long been extinct, and there was still abundant materials such as oil on the earth. Therefore, the initial conditions of human civilization should be good. Due to the lack of primary civilization materials such as oil, the Martian civilization can only find another way to create a super electric tree that can collect solar energy, and the initial conditions of civilization can only be considered average. The Moradic civilization, which was born in the original universe, had very excellent initial conditions for civilization. It took them only 4,000 years to become a first-class civilization in the universe. So which civilization in the universe has the most difficult initial conditions? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 419, The Most Terrifying Civilization. Grey fog rolled over the high platform. After a long time, the voice of the big-headed Pajero man came. The universe is vast, and there are billions of civilizations. The initial conditions of each civilization are different. For example, when a supernova explodes, sometimes a kind of ionized life that can devour high-energy rays is produced in the violent gamma rays, but this kind of ionized life with a certain degree of wisdom often has not had time to develop into a civilization, and has been annihilated in the dark universe with the disappearance of gamma rays. But it is meaningless to discuss this kind of fleeting civilization, so do you limit the level of civilization for this discussion? Limit the level of civilization? Liemo thought for a moment. Limit the level of the civilization of the object of discussion to above level 1. Human civilization is a level 0.7 civilization, and the struggle history of alien civilizations below level 1 is of no reference value. The big-headed Pajero was silent for a moment, as if recalling something. In the universe, there is a silicon-based civilization called Curidan. They originated from a large planet in the Giant Horse Galaxy in the Tata supercluster. The name of this planet is Curidan Star. The Curidan civilization completed the civilization promotion ceremony as early as 5 million years ago, and became a level 5 civilization, thus controlling part of the rules of the universe. After becoming a level 5 civilization, the Curidans did not replicate and multiply as quickly as ordinary silicon-based civilizations to seize the resource stars in the Tata supercluster. Instead, they spent unimaginable energy and time to move 5 stars from nearby galaxies, place them in the galaxy where Curidan Star is located, and arrange them in a certain order. Due to the existence of 6 stars in the galaxy, Curidan Star is bathed in sunlight every moment. This strange move of its has attracted the attention of other high-level civilizations in the Tata supercluster. What do you think is the most terrifying civilization in the universe? The big-headed Pajero suddenly asked at this point. Liemo, who was immersed in the feat of moving stars by the Curidan civilization, was somewhat confused and timid. Those robber civilizations that wander in the starry sky and evolve themselves by devouring weak civilizations? The existence of a robber civilization means that thousands of weak civilizations have become nutrients. Wrong. The big-headed Pajero explained. The most terrifying civilization in the universe is the disordered civilization. Disordered civilization? Is this also a kind of civilization? Liemo asked in confusion. What is disordered civilization? There are all kinds of life in the universe, such as carbon-based life, silicon-based life, elemental life, electromagnetic life, ray life, etc. The big-headed Pajero said, these lives may evolve into civilizations after the baptism of time. But all these civilizations can only be divided into 2 categories in the eyes of high-level civilizations. The first category is orderly civilization. The purpose of the existence and development direction of this civilization is to survive and reproduce, explore the mysteries of the universe, and even pursue art. Because it has a clear purpose, it means that the civilization must follow a certain order, and its behavior shows a kind of predictability. The second category is disordered civilization. As the name suggests, the existence of this civilization does not have any purpose. They are a chaotic existence. They may be conducting friendly transactions with other civilizations in the previous moment, and they may detonate all the planets under their control in the next moment, to carry out the destruction of the universe. And this sudden change of chaotic emotions has no signs and warnings. Liemo understood it instantly. In the Earth civilization, policemen with guns are not scary, because if you are not an M countryman or a criminal, he will not attack you with a gun. A strong and powerful man is not scary, because he will not attack you with an iron fist, if you don't hurt him. The most terrifying are those crazy people with confused eyes and dull expressions, because they often attack you in any way they can without any reason or sign. Disorderly civilization should be similar to a madman, often destroying the earth or even itself without any sign, which is really scary. But how can this crazy civilization develop into a high-level civilization? Liemo does not believe that a madman on Earth has the ability to pose a threat to a tank. But when this madman has a nuclear bomb, the situation is different. The key to the problem is how this madman has this nuclear bomb. Similarly, how does a disorderly civilization have weapons that can threaten high-level civilizations? Thinking of this, he asked, can a disorderly civilization also develop into a high-level civilization? Grey fog rolled on the high platform. Disorderly civilization is not disorderly from the moment it was born, but in the process of evolution and development, it suddenly transformed from an orderly civilization to a disorderly one. Big Head Pagey explained. Suddenly, Liemo was even more puzzled. If a human individual is stimulated, or has a brain injury, it is indeed possible that he will suddenly go crazy. But a civilization is often composed of hundreds of billions of biological individuals. Could it be that hundreds of billions of biological individuals have gone crazy at the same time? This is completely contrary to common sense. This universe is so mysterious, full of mysteries, that even higher level civilizations cannot understand. The big-headed Pajero continued to explain, the Civilization Alliance has conducted statistics and found that there is a 0.0001% chance that civilizations in the universe will suddenly turn into disorder during their development. Civilization Alliance? This is the first new term mentioned by the big-headed Pajero. According to the literal meaning, this should be a cosmic organization composed of cosmic civilizations. But according to the Dark Forest law, the universe is a dark forest, and every civilization is a hunter with a gun, sneaking through the forest like a ghost, gently pushing away the branches that block the way, trying not to make any sound with his footsteps, and even breathing must be cautious. He must be careful, because there are hunters sneaking like him everywhere in the forest. If he finds other life, there is only one thing he can do, shoot and destroy it. In this forest, other people are hell, an eternal threat. Any life that exposes its existence will be quickly destroyed. This is a picture of cosmic civilization, and this is the explanation of the Fermi paradox. If every civilization is a hunter with a gun, it will shoot and destroy other civilizations it finds at any time. It's either you die or I die. There is no other possibility. This means that all civilizations in the universe cannot have the possibility of communicating with each other, so a cosmic organization like the Alliance of Civilizations is impossible. So how did the Alliance of Civilizations mentioned by Big-Head Pajero come about? Chapter 420 The Dark Forest Paradox. Liemo asked in confusion, what does the Civilization Alliance mean? According to the Dark Forest law, due to the existence of the chain of suspicion, it is impossible for civilizations to communicate with each other. How did this alliance come about? Ha 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 ha. Grey fog rolled on the high platform, and the big-headed Pajero man laughed. Before answering your doubt, you need to answer me a question. Suppose there is a level 3 civilization named Alpha in the vast universe. The Alpha civilization is very happy to develop resource stars in the galaxy. At this time, they suddenly discovered that there are traces of civilization on a planet named Omega hundreds of light years away. What should the Alpha civilization do? Faced with potential dangers, the Alpha civilization has two choices. One is to launch an attack, and the other is to turn a blind eye. Launching an attack is in line with the Dark Forest law. Turning a blind eye violates the Dark Forest law. Liemo pondered for a moment. According to the Dark Forest law, Alpha civilization should use a light particle weapon to destroy the Omega planet with traces of civilization while hiding itself. Because if the civilization on Omega has reached level 3 or above, they will sooner or later discover Alpha civilization. In order to eliminate potential dangers, Alpha civilization can only launch an attack if the civilization on this planet has not yet reached level 3. According to the Big Bang theory of wisdom, perhaps in the next second, the civilization on Omega will develop rapidly, break through the bottleneck, and have the same technological power as Alpha civilization. In order to eliminate this possibility in its infancy, Alpha civilization can only choose to launch an attack. This is the cruelty of the Dark Forest law. The entire universe has become a large chicken-eating map. In order to successfully eat chicken, civilization can only have no choice but to launch a devastating attack on other civilizations that appear in sight. On the high platform, grey fog filled the air. Imagination. Your answer is completely based on the imagination of low-level civilization creatures about the universe. It seems that the lower the civilization, the more it loses its awe of the mystery of the universe. When a civilization becomes a first-level civilization, it has the ability to develop stars and may think that it is the god of the universe. But when this civilization develops to a fourth-level civilization, it will know that it is just an insignificant insect in the universe. The big-headed Pajero sighed. What if the Omega star destroyed by the Alpha civilization is a resource star of a high-level civilization? Isn't the Alpha civilization afraid of the inevitable counterattack? Liemo added, Alpha civilization can hide in advance before launching an attack. In this way, high-level civilizations cannot find out where the attack comes from. The big-headed Pajero retorted, as a third-level civilization, how can Alpha civilization ensure that its own hiding methods are enough to deceive the eyes of high-level civilizations? This Liemo was speechless for a moment. Yes, low-level civilizations are absolutely unimaginable what kind of technological capabilities high-level civilizations have. This absolutely unimaginable means that it is impossible to make a reasonable defense. Just like the primitive people absolutely cannot imagine the aircraft in the 0.7 level human civilization technology. This iron box that can fly in the air has exceeded their imagination. What will happen if a modern fighter jet attacks the strongest primitive man in a tribe? The primitive people absolutely cannot imagine the principle of the existence of the iron box in the way of attack. The extremely strong primitive man will hold a stone spear and carry a shield made of rattan, and then appear in the field of vision of the modern fighter without fear. Because the stone spear in his hand has pierced through the abdomen of the most ferocious animal in the forest, the rattan shield he carries cannot be pierced even by the sharpest teeth of wild beasts. The iron box in the sky that does not look majestic and powerful at all is definitely not a match for him, the strongest man in the tribe. At this time, the fighter has locked the poor primitive man with radar, and the pilot lightly presses the launch button, and an infrared-guided missile with flames at the tail roars towards the target. When the primitive man on the ground sees the missile in the air attacking, there was no fear on his face, but his face was full of confidence. He slowly raised his shield and took the most manly posture. He knew that all the women in the tribe must be hiding in the cracks of the rocks at this time, watching the battle with their big eyes. They often choose the strong man on that day. He decided to use an extremely solid shield to block the missile in the air, and then throw the stone spear to kill the iron box in the air. A missile that is enough to destroy a building, a flesh and blood body. When the two meet, what will happen? There is no doubt that it is destruction. This is a result that any modern human can foresee, but primitive humans don't know, so they will only choose a self-righteous way of fighting according to their understanding of the universe. This is the inevitable result of absolutely unimaginable. Primitive humans and modern humans are the same kind of creatures, with the same genetic information and living conditions, and the civilization level is only 0.7 levels apart, but this absolutely unimaginable has already occurred. So when a low-level civilization faces a high-level civilization of an unknown race, it must be an absolutely unimaginable. In this case, is it really a good choice to rashly launch an attack? Liamo's heart was shaken. You know, the essence of this universe is information, and advanced civilizations often have the ability to read all kinds of information. There is an old saying on your earth, whatever happens, it leaves traces. The big-headed Pajero continued to explain. This means that any attack action cannot be hidden from the eyes of higher-level civilizations. Once Alpha civilization launches an attack, it will inevitably suffer a devastating counterattack. Of course, the civilization on Omega may be just a low-level civilization below level 3, so light particles can completely destroy this civilization. But will Alpha civilization risk being destroyed just because of a casual glance at millions of light years away? This is an act where the benefits are not proportional to the risks. Liamo scratched his head, as if he had thought of how to explain it. He smiled and said, perhaps, Alpha civilization should conduct reconnaissance on Omega before launching an attack to determine the level of Omega civilization. Wrong. Big-headed Pajero was like a teacher correcting homework. His voice was like a bell. You have forgotten again that the essence of this universe is information. Deliberate reconnaissance and a casual glance are two completely different information. High-level civilizations will not care about a casual glance because the entire universe is full of curious eyes. But deliberate reconnaissance is different. In the eyes of a high-level civilization, this has become a prelude to an attack and a declaration of war. Perhaps the Alpha civilization may be hit by a sudden attack before it launches its light particles. Then Liamo found that this has become a paradox. If Omega is not reconnaissanced, it cannot be determined whether the civilization on the planet is a high-level civilization, and it cannot launch an attack. If Omega is deliberately reconnaissanced, if the civilization on the planet is a high-level civilization, it will also be hit by a sudden attack. In this case, if Alpha civilization does not want to cause the destruction of civilization because of a casual glance, the best way is to do nothing and just treat the traces of civilization on Omega as non-existent. But this is contrary to the law of the Dark Forest. Chapter 421 The Law of Turning a Blind Eye. Have you discovered the alpha civilization? The best choice at this time is to do nothing. Big-headed Pajero saw what he was thinking and guided him step by step. The Dark Forest law perfectly describes that under the pressure of survival and limited space, civilizations in the universe have to engage in cruel competition in order to survive and develop. But it is just a human imagination of the mysterious universe, because it ignores a major premise, that is, the civilization that explores the universe according to the Dark Forest law must have enough strength to be able to kill prey with a musket in its hand like the hunter in the Dark Forest. But does such a powerful civilization really exist? Strength is relative, just like the animals on your Earth. A hunting dog is undoubtedly more powerful than a little white rabbit, but when it faces the king of beasts, the tiger, it undoubtedly has no chance of winning. The universe is vast and there are many civilizations. How can a civilization determine that it is a tiger instead of a hunting dog at this time? In order to explain this problem clearly, big-headed Pajero turned on the metaphor mode. Liemo nodded frequently. The most amazing thing about the universe is the unknown, and civilizations are hidden in the dark. The big-headed Pajero continued, just like a toddler who sees an armed gangster on the road, it's better for him to pretend that he saw nothing, instead of using the toy gun in his hand to try to provoke the gangster who had no intention of hurting the weak child. Just like what would you do if you found an ant on the road? Maybe you would choose to turn a blind eye because a tiny ant can't pose a threat to you at all. But if this ant is waving its pincers and preparing to attack you without knowing its own limitations, what would you do? The big-headed Pajero was like a teacher who was guiding and instructing, and Liemo was like a student who was listening attentively. He replied, at this time, I would not hesitate to step on it to death with my feet. Those high-level civilizations have long learned to survive and develop cautiously in the process of civilization development. Only those weak and fledgling civilizations like to show off their strength everywhere. The big-headed Pajero sighed. Liemo seemed to understand, but he still had some doubts. If Alpha Civilization does nothing, then what if the civilization on the Omega Star suddenly attacks Alpha Civilization after it develops to a certain level? The big-headed Pajero replied, protagonist thinking. You have a typical arrogant protagonist thinking of Earth humans. In this kind of thinking, Earth humans are the most special. You are the protagonists of the universe. The entire universe exists for you. You must avoid all potential dangers. But in the vast universe, there are no protagonists. No civilized race can avoid all dangers. They can only choose to move forward on a rugged road with less danger. A blindly confident civilization is pathetic because they often ignore greater dangers in order to avoid smaller dangers. It is difficult for such a civilization to develop into a high-level civilization. In fact, civilizations that have the ability to step into the universe often choose this kind of turning a blind eye very tacitly because this is the option with the least risk. When turning a blind eye gradually became an unwritten rule in the universe, the alliance of civilizations was gradually established. Finally, the topic of civilization alliance came up. Liemo was shocked. This big-headed man who had been talking about everything from Nanjing to Beijing finally got back to the point. On the high platform grey fog rolled. Big-headed Pajero continued to narrate. The time when the Civilization Alliance first appeared is no longer traceable. According to the bits and pieces of civilization stories collected by us Pajero people, the Civilization Alliance may have originally been just two advanced civilizations that did not have a survival competition relationship. In order to better explore the universe, they formed a loose alliance. Civilizations that did not have a survival competition relationship? Liemo was very confused, but this time he buried this doubt in his heart, fearing that the teacher would go off topic again. Afterwards, after hundreds of millions of years of development, most of the high-level civilizations in the universe were gradually absorbed. A cosmic organization similar to the United Nations of human beings on your Earth was formed. Big-headed Pajero sighed. Any civilization that needs to join the Civilization Alliance must reach level 5 or above. Liemo instantly understood the reason why big-headed Pajero sighed, but the Pajero people of level 4 civilization could not join the Civilization Alliance. Through the bits and pieces revealed in the stories told by Bighead in the past, he discovered that there seemed to be an insurmountable gap between level 4 and level 5 civilizations in the universe. Could it be because of the promotion ceremony? As if not noticing the student's distraction, the big-headed Pajero continued, the biggest responsibility of the Civilization Alliance is to search for disordered civilizations. I've said before that disordered civilizations did not enter a state of disorder from the moment they were born, but suddenly transformed from order to disorder in the process of evolution. This means that some advanced civilizations may also become disordered civilizations. These high-level disordered civilizations are like crazy beings, wantonly destroying the universe. They will detonate vacuum bombs in the void, causing dimensional collapse. Or they will destroy several galaxies for no reason, causing a huge waste of resources. Or they will attack surrounding civilizations recklessly and destroy the harmony of the universe. These are all behaviors that the orderly civilizations of the universe cannot tolerate. So the Civilization Alliance, as a representative of high-level civilizations, is always paying attention to the disordered civilizations that appear in the universe. The biggest manifestation of disordered civilization is the sudden unreasonable behavior of civilization, and their behavior is often unpredictable. Liemo can understand this. The crazy people on Earth often do things that are difficult for ordinary people to understand. The Kiradan civilization spent a huge amount of resources and time to transport 5 stars from the surrounding galaxies. In the eyes of the Civilization Alliance, this is a typical behavior of a disordered civilization. Big Head Pajero continued to narrate. So, the Civilization Alliance sent a patrol team composed of 10 civilization inspectors to Kiradan Star. They will conduct a civilization screening of the Kiradan civilization. At the same time, the interstellar elders and fleets of the Civilization Alliance began to assemble. The Tata supercluster, where Kiradan Star is located, was in a state of panic for a while, and countless low-level civilizations were silent, because wars between high-level civilizations often affect the surrounding weak civilizations. In a war between two giants, they will not care about the lives of ants on the ground. Chapter 422, The Hollow Rock World of the Kiradan People. The Civilization Alliance is ready to wait for the Civilization Inspection Team to send back the Civilization Identification Report. This is a report that can determine whether the Kiradan civilization can continue to survive in this universe. When the 10-member Civilization Inspection Team walked out of the airship and stepped on the ground of Kiradan, they were all stunned. In the sky of Kiradan, there are 3 suns at the same time at all times. Under the shining of the 3 suns, the entire planet becomes extremely bright. Kiradan has become a planet without darkness. At this time, a rusty robot, surrounded by several mechanical armors, appeared in front of the inspection team. After a simple communication, the Civilization Inspection Team understood that the main brain of Kiradan already knew the purpose of their trip. This rusty robot is a Kiradan. The main brain is also a Kiradan. Because they are silicon-based life, the essence of life is the beating electronic signal in the ultra-high integrated chip, and the external form is meaningless. Under the guidance of the Kiradan people, the Civilization Inspection Team came to the location of the main brain, which is a high mountain. No, it should be a huge computer like a mountain. The metal shell of this computer looks brilliant and dazzling under the sunlight. Through the cracks in the mountain, the Civilization Inspection Team can clearly see that it is filled with densely packed ultra-high integrated chips and finely interwoven circuits. Hello, distinguished guests from the Civilization Alliance. The tone of the main brain's greeting is mixed with an indescribable vicissitude. Lucky Kiradan people, hello. The Civilization Inspection Team responded to the goodwill of the mastermind. As the Civilization Alliance representing thousands of advanced civilizations, we are very happy to see a level 5 civilization born from this cruel universe. But this universe cannot accommodate the existence of disordered civilizations. As a Civilization Inspection Team sent by the Civilization Alliance, we need to identify the Kiradan civilization. Of course, before the identification begins, your Kiradan civilization has a chance to defend itself as usual. You can use any form of information expression to explain to the Civilization Alliance that your previous behavior of moving stars is not a disordered behavior. If your explanation is unanimously approved, then the civilization identification operation of the Civilization Alliance can be terminated. The Kiradan civilization will also regain its freedom. Silence, silence, the Kuridan people in front of them, like a mountain, are humming inside, and hundreds of billions of chips are running rapidly. The civilization inspection team stands quietly and waits patiently. The answer of the mastermind in front of them will determine the life and death of a level 5 civilization. Of course, they were not afraid that the Kuridans would use this to delay time, because no disordered civilization could escape the pursuit of the Civilization Alliance. 3 suns descended, and 3 suns rose. When time seemed to have lost its meaning, the mountain-like Kuridans sighed. In order to circumvent civilization screening, our Kuridans chose to open the Kuridan civilization room to the Civilization Alliance. The records in the civilization room will be enough to show that our Kuridan's behavior of moving stars has a rational purpose, and is not a disordered behavior. A level 5 civilization actually voluntarily opened its own civilization room. This behavior was completely beyond the expectations of the civilization inspection team. Because the civilization room is a record of the true history of a civilization, and it is also a gift left by a civilization to the mysterious universe, it will never be viewed by other civilized races, unless the civilization has become extinct. Of course, the Kuridan civilization history of the past 3 million years is enough to explain that we are not a disordered civilization, so the mountain-like Kuridans seemed to be praying. The civilization inspection team was very considerate. Of course, the Civilization Alliance is not interested in the history of cosmic civilizations. We are only concerned about disordered civilizations. When we can find enough explanations from the historical records of the civilization of the Kuridan civilization 3 million years ago, the civilization inspection team will very politely withdraw from the civilization room. There was no tension or malicious intimidation. The Kuridan civilization reached an agreement with the civilization inspection team and handed over the historical records of the Kuridan civilization 3 million years ago. Kuridan civilization is a silicon-based civilization, born in a cavity more than 10,000 meters underground on the Kuridan star. The radius of this cavity is more than 5,000 kilometers. The cavity was born at the beginning of the formation of Kuridan star. Due to its proximity to the core of the Earth, the cavity is filled with various high-energy rays. When some of the high-energy rays with repulsive properties are accidentally intertwined, there is a very low probability of generating weak electric sparks, which is the electric spark phenomenon in nature. This weak electric spark has a very low probability of hitting the rock wall of the cavity. Among the rocks that make up the rock wall, a piece of rock rich in metal element appeared with a very low probability. Similarly, a circuit-like structure appeared inside it with a very low probability. An accidental accident is inevitable. An extremely low probability will eventually be magnified into a necessity after endless years. When a weak electric spark hits a rock with a circuit structure inside, the inside of the rock is instantly filled with free electrons. These electrons, through the complex combination of the circuit diagram, form a kind of intelligent creature that can think, and the first Kuridaman is born. This Kuridaman is the current main brain. It initially relied on swallowing the orichin radioactive element next to it for survival. The element in the ore can form its body, and the rays can provide it with energy. The instinct of living things is to reproduce. When the main brain could not move, it used the ore next to it to reproduce thousands of Kuridaman. 300,000 years later, the Kuridaman had limbs that could be used to move. 600,000 years later, the Kuridaman created electromagnetic waves to transmit information, making large-scale communication possible, and the Kuridaman civilization was born. Silicon-based life is too big, the hole is too small. When the Kuridans were immersed in the development of technological civilization, they found that this hole with a radius of only more than 5,000 kilometers had been completely occupied by the Kuridans. The hole can no longer accommodate more Kuridans. Space. 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 Kuridan civilization needs more space. For the first time, they were curious about what was behind the rock wall. If there was another hole, the survival of Kuridan civilization would be expanded. So the mastermind convened a meeting of all Kuridans, and all 2048 Kuridans unanimously agreed to launch an excavation plan. They had to dig a passage for the survival of civilization. The first adventure of the Kuridans began. They found a loose rock wall, and began to dig with metal limbs. Unfortunately, even the softest rock wall will become extremely hard more than 10,000 kilometers underground. Kuridans are made of inferior metal, cannot last too long, and will be scrapped. Then he returned to the hole, and the next Kuridan with a complete arm took over his job. After thousands of years of digging, the Kuridans were disappointed. They had dug for a full 10 kilometers and still hadn't encountered any other holes. Behind the rock wall was rock, and behind the rock was a bigger rock. This hole might be the entire universe. The Kuridans' confidence was shaken, and they named the world they lived in Rock Wall Hollow World. Chapter 423 Light. Therefore, the first excavation plan of the Kulandan people was terminated. The consequence of the failure of the development, the living space of the entire civilized race is still the empty space with a radius of only more than 5,000 kilometers. In order to alleviate the lack of space, the mastermind decided to set the upper limit of the number of kilodons to 204,800. Without the unanimous consent of all kilodons, no individual is allowed to reproduce privately. When a kilodon loses his life due to an accident, all kilodons will cheer for him. They will devour the dead at the carnival with great joy, and then redistribute this precious breeding quota. This day also became a famous festival of the Kilodon people, Huandande. 1 million years later, the Kilodon people found a piece of ore with magical power in the rock wall, which can adsorb the Kilodon people to the rock wall. This ore was named magnet. 2 million years later, the phenomenon of electromagnetic induction was discovered. The Kilodon people use the principle of electromagnetic induction to convert the collected electrical energy into mechanical energy. 3 million years later, the first electric-powered drilling ship appeared. It had a sharp drill and great power, and could dig 5 kilometers into the rock wall in 10 days. The appearance of the drilling ship rekindled the hope of the Kuridans to explore the hollow world of the rock wall. Therefore, the mastermind, as the leader, once again convened a general meeting of the Kuridans with 204,800 members. The second excavation plan was launched. Due to the extremely high efficiency of the drilling ship, the Kuridans have dug a 500-kilometer cave in 20 years, but to their disappointment, the end of the 500-kilometer-long cave is still rock. At this time, an even more terrifying thing happened. The Kuridans discovered that the rubble excavated in the cave must occupy the space of the hollow world of the rock wall. The rubble excavated from this 500-kilometer cave has completely occupied the maneuvering space reserved by the mastermind for the Kuridans. If the excavation plan continues, the Kuridans must find a new storage space for the excavated rubble. But the rock wall hollow world is just a hole with a radius of only more than 5,000 kilometers. Its space has been strictly calculated and evenly distributed to each Kulidan. The only maneuvering space is already filled with rubble. Is the hope of exploring the world extinguished? Will the Kilodans be trapped in the rock wall hollow world forever? The unwilling Kilodans thought of a cruel method. Deprive a Kilodan of the living space, and then use this space to pile up rubble. Losing living space means losing life. After calculation, the main brain found that every sacrifice of 20 Kilodans can release space for storing 1 kilometer of cave rubble. Continuing to dig means sacrifice. Giving up digging means that the entire Kilodan civilization will always stay in this hole with a radius of only more than 5,000 kilometers, carrying out endless self-castration. The instinct of organisms is to survive and reproduce, and the instinct of civilization is to develop and expand. Giving up digging completely violates the instincts of organisms and civilizations. Thus, a big lottery activity was launched in the Kuriddan civilization. All individuals in Kuriddan civilization, including the main brain, had to participate in this lottery. The Kuridans who were drawn were called martyrs. The martyrs would lose their living space and be sent to the smelting furnace to be turned into liquid metal to reinforce the rock wall of the cave. For every kilometer the drilling ship advanced, 20 Kuridans were drawn as martyrs through the big lottery. 40 years after the start of the second excavation plan, the drilling ship had dug 1,000 kilometers, and the rubble it dug claimed the lives of 10,000 Kuridans. 80 years after the start of the second excavation plan, the drilling ship had dug 2,000 kilometers, and the rubble it dug claimed the lives of 30,000 Kuridans. 120 years after the start of the second excavation plan, the drilling ship had dug 3,000 kilometers, and the rubble it dug claimed the lives of 50,000 Kuridans. At this time, the terrified Kuridans found that the end of the 3,000 kilometer long cave was still rock. At this time, They had already sacrificed 50,000 civilized individuals in order to pile up the rubble. 240 years after the start of the second excavation plan, the drilling ship dug 6,000 kilometers, and the rubble it dug took the lives of 110,000 Kuridans. At this time, the fear of the Kuridans turned into confusion, because the end of this 6,000 kilometer long cave was still rock. At this time, the rubble dug by the drilling ship had occupied half of the space of the hollow world of the rock wall, and they also sacrificed half of the civilized individuals. After paying such a huge price, the Kuridans could not even know how thick the rock wall was. Maybe if 20 more Kuridans were sacrificed, and the drilling ship dug another kilometer, they would discover a new world. Maybe the thickness of this rock wall is as high as 600 billion and 6 million, so even if all the Kuridans were sacrificed, there would not be enough space to pile up the rubble. The excavation plan was suspended, and the mastermind convened a meeting of all the Kulandan people again. However, only 94,800 civilization individuals participated in this plenary meeting. After 10 years of meetings and discussions, they decided to continue the excavation plan until the last Kulandan person was sacrificed. The excavation plan was restarted. 270 years later, the drilling ship had dug 7,000 kilometers, and the rubble it dug claimed the lives of 130,000 Kulandan people. 270 years later, the drilling ship had dug 10,000 kilometers, and the rubble it dug claimed the lives of 200,000 Kulandan people. At this time, there were only 48 civilization individuals left in the entire Kulandan civilization, including the mastermind. At the same time, 20 Kulandan people would be sacrificed for every kilometer the drilling ship dug. If the drilling ship dug another 3 kilometers, the entire Kulandan civilization would no longer exist. At this time, the big lottery was meaningless, and the mastermind personally controlled the drilling ship and continued to move forward. The next moment, a ray of light appeared. The drilling ship flew into the air under the influence of huge inertia. During the descent, the main brain looked through the porthole and saw a vast space. How big is the radius of this space? 50,000 kilometers? 500,000 kilometers? Or even more? The surface of the space, the mountains are stacked, and the long rivers are flowing. The existence of this space has completely exceeded his imagination. This is the real universe. Opening the hatch of the drilling ship, the main brain looked up and saw the dazzling stars in the sky. This is a bright world. Seeing this, the civilization inspection team from the Civilization Alliance gently closed the real historical record of the Kuridan civilization. They have fully understood the intention of the Kuridan people to transport 5 suns from the nearby starfield after becoming a level 5 civilization. After living in the underground cave for 3 million years, the fear of darkness has been deeply engraved in the original main program of the Kuridan people, and this engraving cannot be deleted by resetting. The Civilization Inspection Team sent a screening report back to the Civilization Alliance, and the assembled interstellar elders and fleets returned to their respective civilizations. The big-headed Pajero stopped talking here. Liemo frowned and thought for a moment, will silicon-based creatures also be afraid of darkness? In his impression, silicon-based creatures are cold machines that execute commands according to program instructions. A silicon-based creature that is afraid of darkness, this is too strange. The Kulandan people are not afraid of darkness, but the hollow world and the rock wall that almost took the lives of all the Kulandan people. The big-headed Pajero man replied, darkness is just a symbol. The Kulandan people in the darkness will feel like they are back underground. Chapter 424. New mission released. Mission, Light of the Stars description. Control the power of stars so that humans are no longer restricted by energy problems. Requirements, achieve controlled nuclear fusion rewards. 2 million subject experience points, 1 ordinary lottery. Time limit 365 days. Acceptance, yes/no. This is an expected mission. According to the 0.7 level of human civilization, controlled nuclear fusion is a science and technology that human civilization urgently needs. Energy is crucial to the survival and expansion of a civilization. Since the birth of the first primitive human, humans have existed on Earth for 5 million years. During these 5 million years, the way humans use energy can be said to be very simple, that is, burning. In ancient times, humans burned firewood. Entering the modern era, humans burned coal and oil. However, with the development of civilization, the energy required is growing exponentially, and burning fossil energy can no longer meet human energy needs. Nuclear fusion, an energy source that is widely present on stars in the universe, has entered the sight of scientists. Compared with nuclear fission, a large amount of nuclear radiation waste will be produced during the fission process. Perfect nuclear fusion does not produce nuclear waste, and of course does not produce greenhouse gases, and basically does not pollute the environment. Controlled nuclear fusion is a pile of hardwood in a dark, cold and empty forest, and the fossil energy on the earth is a small box of matches. The fate of mankind lies in whether the hardwood can be ignited before the matches run out. If controlled nuclear fusion cannot be achieved before the fossil energy on the earth is exhausted, then mankind may be trapped on this tiny earth forever. This time, Liam did not hesitate at all, directly manipulated the system and clicked accept. The grey fog dissipated. He stood up, and the toilet made a gurgling sound of running water. Back to the office. The rocket madman was sitting on the sofa, holding a teacup, thinking about it. Comrade Musk, where did we talk about just now? Just now in the grey fog space, listening to the big-headed Pajero man telling a long story, Liam could not remember what they had just discussed. Oh, the allocation of the 4,000 places for the Mars base. Musk put down the teacup in his hand and sat up straight. The entire Mars base can accommodate 4,000 Earthlings, minus 300 places for base staff, 500 places reserved for scientists in the laboratory, and 200 places that have been sold, and there are 2,000 vacant places. Musk seems to be born with a natural sensitivity to numbers. He can always find the trick to make profits from numbers. What do you think about the allocation of these places? Liam decided to try the business acumen of the new director of the Mars base. Musk's eyes flashed. Auction. We Mosey Technology can auction all these 2,000 places, and the highest bidder wins. According to my estimate, these 2,000 places are worth at least 20 billion. Excluding the cost of the Mars base project, our Mosey Technology will make 5 times the profit. Liam noticed that Musk mentioned our Mosey Technology twice in this answer. It is clear that this new employee of Mosey Technology is eager to express his loyalty to his boss. Liam does not doubt that Musk can sell 2,000 places for 20 billion. After all, this rocket madman who almost started from scratch was once named a marketing master by Forbes magazine. But does the highest bidder win? Not appropriate. The Mars base is not a commercial property. It carries the space dream of the Earth's human beings and serves as a civilization shelter. Thinking of this, Liam had an idea in his mind. He looked at Musk with expectation and said, although 20 billion is a lot, it is not my original intention to build a Mars base. I decided to give away these 2,000 places. Give them away. Musk looked surprised. Yes, give them out. Liam stood up and walked to the window. We, Mosey Technology, will conduct a large-scale selection activity worldwide to determine the ownership of these 2,000 places. Of course, the quota is free, but if you want to live in the Mars base for a long time, you need to pay additional living expenses. It takes a lot of money to maintain the life of an Earthling on Mars, and Mosey Technology will never pay for this part of the money. Selection activity? Musk looked confused. He really couldn't understand his boss's brain circuit. The value of these quotas is 2 trillion, not 2,000 or 200. Even if it is 200 or 2,000, no one is willing to give it, let alone 2 billion. This behavior completely subverted Musk's business common sense. He frowned and fell into meditation. This is a way of thinking that those smart minds in Silicon Valley have come up with. When you encounter something you can't figure out, you can try to clear the messy thoughts in your head so that maybe a smart answer will pop out of your mind. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and then roar. A snoring sound came from his mouth. Liam looked at the scene with a confused look on his face. Was it really a wise act to take in this homeless rocket madman? The Mars base was successfully built, and the scientists who had just joined the Mosey Technology Laboratory were relieved, because according to international practice, in addition to extra bonuses, paid vacations are indispensable for the completion of a large project. After months of tension, it's time to relax. Some of them have even been browsing the various tourist routes of the tour group during their break time, imagining the upcoming vacation. But the old employees who have experienced several big projects have not slacked off at all. They know that Professor Liemo, the boss of the laboratory, must be planning some major project again. Especially when they saw the supervisors of the laboratory walking through the corridor with a serious face, and their destination was the large conference room of the Mosey Technology Laboratory. These old employees understood that a new project was about to begin. Conference room of Mosey Technology Laboratory. Welcome everyone to the expanded meeting of Mosey Technology. The reason why we are holding this meeting today is because I have formulated a new project. Liemo's eyes were bright, and he scanned the participants in the conference room. Simple, direct, and straightforward. The laboratory executives attending the meeting did not show any surprise. They were already accustomed to the urgent work pace of Mosey Technology. Some supervisors even started talking a few days ago about which field the great scientist Professor Liemo was going to choose as a breakthrough direction this time. Is it gene editing? Is it chemical precision synthesis? Or is it challenging the invariance of charge relativity? Based on past experience, this great scientist is always full of interest in cutting-edge disciplines and is very good at applying very high-end technologies in business. This time, our new project of Mosey Technology Laboratory is controlled nuclear fusion. Liemo stood up and announced the final puzzle. Chapter 425 Project. Controlled nuclear fusion. Controlled nuclear fusion. Controlled nuclear fusion. Even though the executives of Mosey Technology had already prepared themselves mentally, they were still stunned by this new project. Only one new employee, Musk, the director of the Mars base of Mosey Technology, had a face full of longing, waving his arms excitedly and saying, "Controlled nuclear fusion. So cool. I knew that joining Mosey Technology was a very wise decision. Boss, you have the smartest brain and the noblest character in the human world. Kang Ming is not as smart as you, and Zhu Jiang is not as wise as you. Under your leadership, Mosey Technology will definitely go to the world in the universe." The executives present all showed contempt. Who said that foreigners don't know how to flatter? This rocket madman flatters in a shocking way. Then they exchanged glances. Are we usually too reserved? Maybe the boss likes this? Ahem. Liemo regretted a little, regretting letting this guy attend the meeting. All the people working on this are scientists, the elites of mankind. I don't need to say much about the importance of controlled nuclear fusion. It's the same old rules. Select a group of high-energy physics scientists from the laboratory to form a controlled nuclear fusion project team. All projects in the laboratory must give way to this project. Finally, I decided to classify this project as a top secret project. Except for those present here and the members who will join the project team, it must not be leaked to anyone else. The controlled nuclear fusion project is different from the laboratory's previous projects. It has a very high international sensitivity. Nuclear weapons are extremely powerful, and after the explosion, they will be accompanied by strong nuclear radiation. These nuclear radiations will destroy the genetic information of organisms and even turn organisms into monsters. Land that has been exposed to nuclear radiation may not be habitable for human life for hundreds of years. There are more than 200 countries in the world, but only 10 countries have nuclear weapons. And with the increasing calls for abandoning nuclear weapons in recent years, any form of nuclear testing will cause an uproar in the international community. Especially in recent years, Japan's floating island nuclear power plant suddenly had a leak accident, and 3 fuel plant buildings had hydrogen explosions, causing hundreds of thousands of people in the surrounding areas to leave their homes. It also made humans full of fear of nuclear energy that can destroy the earth. Therefore, the controlled nuclear fusion project of Mosey Technology must be carried out in secret, at least in the early stage. Boss, nuclear projects are very sensitive. Do you need to submit an application to the relevant departments? At this time, Professor Jian from the Nuclear Physics Laboratory raised his hand. Professor Jian's full name is Jian Yangte. He comes from the Institute of High Energy Physics under the Ministry of Science and Technology, and is one of the major achievements of Liemo's poaching plan. The Institute of High Energy Physics is the first professional institute in China that specializes in controlled nuclear fusion research. Later, with the establishment of the Southwest Institute of Physics and the Institute of Plasma of the Huazhong Academy of Sciences, and the lack of breakthroughs in research, the Institute of High Energy Physics was abolished by the Ministry of Science and Technology, and the research on magnetic confinement nuclear fusion almost entered a state of interruption. MOSI Technology was then connected by Mr. Wu, and invited this old expert to serve as the director of the nuclear physics laboratory of MOSI Technology. Liemo nodded. Of course, I will draft a complete plan and submit it. Don't worry about this. Everyone suddenly realized that this young boss was not only an ordinary scientist, but also had a huge influence in China and even in the world. There were even rumors that he had a close relationship with the respected old man in China. This also explains why he was so nonchalant in the face of such a sensitive matter as the nuclear project. Liemo looked at the changing expressions on the faces of the supervisors and instantly understood what they were thinking. However, he was reluctant to explain this kind of thing. After all, a boss who keeps a proper sense of mystery is very helpful in establishing authority in the hearts of his subordinates. Boss, there are currently two main ways to study controlled nuclear fusion internationally. One is the magnetic confinement tokamak structure-shaped nuclear fusion device, and the other is the laser ignition inertial confinement nuclear fusion device. Which method are we going to use for our controlled nuclear fusion project? This time, it was not the scientist in the field of high energy physics who raised his hand, but Director Su of the Life Research Laboratory. Nuclear fusion is not difficult. Humans have used the principle of nuclear fusion to create powerful hydrogen bombs. The difficulty lies in how to achieve controlled nuclear fusion. That is, humans can control the start and stop of nuclear fusion, and can control the reaction speed of nuclear fusion at any time. Just like gunpowder, it can be made into a bomb. The moment this bomb is detonated, the energy of the gunpowder can be completely released. Gunpowder and some chemicals can also be mixed in a certain proportion, and then put into a firework tube, which will continue to emit bright sparks after ignition. The magnetic confinement tokamak structure-shaped nuclear fusion device and the laser ignition inertial confinement nuclear fusion device are equivalent to a firework tube loaded with gunpowder. But Liemo is not going to use these two solutions, because after decades of development and tens of billions of research funds, humans still have not seen any hope of achieving controlled nuclear fusion. This has already shown that this plan is not feasible. Just like a high school student, after school, he went to an internet cafe, which was only 20 minutes away from the school. He walked for 50 minutes and still arrived at the internet cafe, which can only mean that he took the wrong way. Similarly, when a plan is still not feasible after decades of research by thousands of scientists, there is a great probability that this plan is a wrong plan. Liemo shook his head. Neither of these two plans is in my consideration for the time being. Point, are you going to take a new route? Director Su's face was full of shock, because although these two plans have not yet achieved controlled nuclear fusion, they are also recognized by the academic community as the most likely plans. This great scientist from MOSI Technology Laboratory is a bit unconventional. Because some data have not been calculated, the specific design plan is not convenient to be announced for the time being. Liemo smiled and said, everyone can do some later design work first. Later? Everyone didn't understand what he meant. Has the controlled nuclear fusion device not yet appeared, and he has already started to consider how to start it? Yes. Liemo nodded. Everyone will assume that the controlled nuclear fusion has been completed. Then design a new energy conversion device to convert the huge heat energy released by nuclear fusion into electrical energy. Just as this great scientist looked confident, everyone was shocked. Liemo went on, looking at the history of human energy utilization in modern times. It is nothing more than the history of boiling water. In the industrial age, humans burned coal to boil water, which drove steam turbines to drive cars and ships. In the electricity age, humans burned coal and oil to drive steam turbines to generate electricity. In the nuclear age, humans have released the ability of nuclear fission, boiled water to drive steam turbines to generate electricity. So, I don't want that when controlled nuclear fusion is successful, this energy from stars will still only be used to boil water. The scientists all nodded. The boss's words pointed out the mediocre means by which humans use energy. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.